Come on to my house, I'm gonna give you candy. Come on to my house, I'm gonna give you everything. Thank you, Crit Twitch, for the host. Hi, everybody. Hey.
Come on to
my house, come on. Come on to my house, come on. Come on to my house, I'm gonna give you candy. Come on to my house, I'm gonna give you everything. Hey. Yeah, the game sound is fairly loud. You know, Peach, the last time I was playing in Obra Dinn, people were like, the game sound is too soft. So I was like, okay, I'll change it. But then they're like, now it's too loud. I think it was loud for me too. And I was like, I just think it's a little uneven, is what I'll say. Hey, Rissa, PH, Crit Twitch, how are you all doing? I hope you're all doing well. I'm in my... Perfection is a difficult goal. It is unattainable. Krellin points out, maybe the two games aren't mastered the same. And I suspect that is true. I suspect that. By the way, I'm having some pomegranate seltzer water, which is delicious. So I want to chat with you all. How do we feel about volume right now? Hey, Ice Bunny. My mom left me a meal I've heated up and I'm now eating. It is not great. Oh. So, hey everyone, I'm Trooper SJP, and this is the Academic Foxhole, and you're seeing me in my sort of workout shirt because hey, Atomica! I just want to let you know that, and I feel like Krellin will appreciate this, or will not be mad at me. I wish there was an externally imposed mastering standard applied to literally everything because I get really tired of having to constantly readjust my volume levels. I understand that. So, it's February 1st, and for the month of February, and it's going to be because you know, it's really hard for me to take care of myself during the school year because I've always got so much to do and there's so much blah, 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 blah. But I've decided that I'm going to make a concerted effort, because you know, December I was able to be like really good, eating 3 times a day and all of that, because the bulk of December was break. But I'm attempting to do this in February as well. And so, Krellin, I ate breakfast. Oh, good. Well, Rissa, you can't go just yet because I'm going to do something. I'm not going to play the banjo, but I am going to play the lyre. Because I've been practicing the lyre in case I need to play another song on the Witcher game, and I thought I would play for you what I've been practicing. Because I have been practicing an instrument, it just hasn't been the banjo, right? So I can't play the banjo for you, but I can play the lyre. And Krell's like, I'm the proudest I've ever been in my entire life. This is a lie. No, but I had breakfast. Like, I had breakfast, and I worked out a little bit, so I feel like, whoosh, right? I'm a little scruffy, and my mustache is not perfect. It is also a little scruffy, but I'm here, I've had breakfast, and I'm going to eat 2 more times today, more or less. Like, it's gonna happen. Cake! I love that cake so much. So, you know what we're gonna do? I'm gonna, I should just announce what's going on. Hey, we're playing the Outer Worlds today. Woo. Tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern, on this channel will be part 2 and probably the last part. I imagine that our investigator will be able to finish up the adventure tomorrow. Probably. Well, it depends. Part 2 of Cthulhu Confidential, capital color, with Algernon Bolden as the investigator Langston Wright, which... Liar, pants on fire. I pulled a trooper, I skipped breakfast, but I had lunch. That does sound like pulling a trooper, Atomica. Is that bad? That's pulling a trooper? I feel like it is. I feel like that's really bad. Oh. When it's done, are you going to do a retrospective about all 3 Cthulhu Confidential? Or meet a hard fate? One of those two would happen. Just make sure the session isn't over the first 5 minutes because Langston gets shot. See, here's the thing. In Cthulhu Confidential, players cannot die until the end of the adventure. It is how the rules are written. The rules are written such that it is impossible, barring something like, I mean, if the player throws himself off a cliff, like clearly does some, like if the player throws himself off a cliff, they will die. But generally speaking, in Cthulhu Confidential, and I think also the same with Night's Black Agent Solo, in their one player, one GM game, players cannot die before the end of the adventure. At the end of the adventure, they can well die, and they can get conditions that will say to them, hey, you're gonna die if you don't take care of this by the end of the adventure. But they cannot die before the adventure ends. Yes, 3 meals and 4 snacks a day. But isn't getting, no, because these are very, Krellin, these are not simulationist games at all. They are in no way simulations. If it were a simulationist game, they would get shot and that would be the end of the adventure. Because this is a narrativist game, that is not how it happens at all. What happens if you get shot, then you're bleeding and now you're bleeding. If you get shot, that would be a terminal setback. So you'd get a card saying shot, bleeding, and it would say terminal, and it would just let you know that if you do not take care of the shot part before the end of the adventure, you die, is how that works. Actually, there are cards like that, yes. I want to make sure there's a retrospective. We appreciate Dash's tactical use of pie. Will you do part 2 of Dex's story? That's a good question. Yeah, Dex died, so we can't do any more Dexes. But I think what I can do is talk to Drunkly and see if he wants to make a new investigator that's based in Los Angeles, a new detective, a different kind of detective, like with a different feeling. And we can probably do more LA adventures with Drunkly, best kind of worst Marcus, with a different investigator. So could do that. So we can do more LA adventures. We just need a new investigator for that one. And I plugged the bullet hole with my finger. Roll a die, crit. You have healed. Oh hi, Vio. So there is a card. Oh no, I've been shot cards. And actually, Dex got one of those terminal cards, which was sort of being ripped apart by Ghoul's card, which is like you're bleeding out and it's really bad. And he had that choice at the very end. He could have gone to a hospital and taken care of that terminal card he had, but then the bad guy would get away. It was like at the very end of that adventure that Dex had, he had this terminal card that he was gonna die, and he had the choice. He could either leave and go to the hospital and not die, but the bad guy would get away, or he could stay and take care of the bad guy, in which case he would die. And he chose to stay and take care of the bad guy, and then he died. But if he hadn't taken care of the bad guy, the young woman who was in that comatose state would never come out of it. So like that woman who was like, the sister who was all messed up, she would never come out of that state if he hadn't have done that. So, right? Maybe he could play the not corrupt cop, maybe. Yeah, so the way that because Cthulhu Confidential is super narrativist and it's sort of meant for a story with a beginning, middle, and end, you can't die in the middle. They just don't have it happen. But you can have problems, and it will impact you, right? Like if you're bleeding, you're going to have negatives so it's going to make the rest of the adventure probably harder, and you're going to die unless you do something about it. Dex, as portrayed by Drunkly, didn't have much to live for anyway. It is true. He made the choice that Dex would have made, and I agreed. I thought it was really good, and I was like, you could maybe not, but also it's true. Marcus did such a great job with that character, and also so did Jackie Dash, and I'm really loving how AJ is playing Langston. So I am overjoyed with all 3 of those players, and I cannot wait to play more Cthulhu Confidential with them. Of course, we'll have to wait until after the French Resistance game, by the way, which I'm so excited about. Oh, by the way, hold on a second. Let me cancel your audio. Here's the thing. I know that Rissa has got to go, so I'm going to play the liar. So here's the thing. I'm supposed to tell you, right? on Sunday, 3 p.m. Cthulhu Confidential Part 2, and I hope that it's gonna be great. And then Wednesday is The Witcher, episode 3, and then Thursday here, Outer World, Oberdin, and then as forward. So for those who don't know, in the Witcher campaign, I'm playing a bard, and I bought this lyre so that I could perform bardic songs because I am a method actor. And I'm going to tell you something about this lyre that I bought. I bought the lyre because I was like, oh, I want something that is sort of period. And this is a 7-string lyre, which is also pretty period. I am VO. I'm doing a Witcher campaign over on Tales from the Grim. Tales of the Grim. Tales from the Grim. Tales of the Grim. Tales from the Grim. And the YouTube of the first episode has gone up on their YouTube channel, and I recommend watching it. You don't have to watch it if you don't want to, but I recommend it. The cast are great actors, super fun to play with, really, really interesting. There's so much going on behind the scenes, and I cannot wait for all the secrets to be revealed. And I only know my secrets, but I know everyone else has secrets as well. So at the moment, I'm playing a game where I know I've got major secrets. I know everybody else has major secrets, but we don't yet know what they are because we haven't shared them. But I know some of them are going to come out pretty soon, and there's a bit of a mystery, and there's a great setup. So I'm like, oh, thank you, PH. I hope I can come and watch. I have Mama Bunny here as moral support. Oh, well, good. I'm glad that your mom's being supportive. How am I enjoying the system? Well, it's 1d10 versus 1d20. And as people who know me know that I prefer less swing. I prefer multiple dice because it's less swingy. But The Witcher, I feel like, is a little bit better. D10 plus stat plus D10 plus stat plus skill is less swingy than D20 plus skill, right? Because you actually have a larger sort of modifier base. So that's pretty good. So that's a little bit better. It's got choices that I like. Like, I like as a player, I know that, okay, so here's the thing. I like mid-crunchy games. I enjoy mid-crunchy games. Why do I enjoy mid-crunchy games? Because I like having to make... I like the mechanics... I like the kind of storytelling and the hard... I like hard choices. And I like when the mechanics also give you hard choices, or choices at all. I really like feeling that as a player, some of the choices I make are going to mechanically make a difference. So for example, in The Witcher, you have a stamina, and you can spend that stamina to get an extra attack. You have to spend stamina to do more than one defense. You spend stamina for spell casting, but if you run out of stamina, then you're stunned. And if you're stunned, that is not great for you in combat. So you're like, ooh, how much of my stamina do I spend in this moment? How much do I push myself? How hard do I push? And I love that there are these sort of difficult choices you can make. And also those choices, something like that, also play into RP. Are you playing a brash character who would totally push things and push to the edge? Are you a character that's a little bit more careful? So I like... and games that have like almost no crunch, you don't get to make those kind of choices because the mechanics are almost invisible. So I do appreciate there's crunchiness, where there's some crunchiness in the game. Like, do you want to go for a headshot? It's a much harder shot. Do you want to use your luck right now? Do you not want to lose your so there are mechanical choices in the game that I do appreciate. And Vio says, so moderate amount of crunch in the rules is your Goldilocks zone. It is. And please note, I can play crunchier and I can play rules light. I can do both. Cthulhu Confidential is super rules light. It's very, very rules light. So, I mean, I can do both. But my preference is to play a game that's got medium crunch so that the mechanics are part of the storytelling. Like some people want their mechanics to not be involved in the storytelling. They just want to tell the story with no mechanics or as little as possible. But I like my mechanics to be part of the storytelling. I want them to be well done mechanics. But I like my mechanics to be part of the storytelling in that way. Yeah. Ice Bunny says about the mom, she could use work a bit on the delivery, but it's nice to not have to face this insert meanest word all alone. That's fair. Krellin says, it's weird to say that, Trumper. I consider GURPS to be pretty heavy crunch. What cruncher systems take that make it medium? Oh, see, for me, I don't think of GURPS as being necessarily heavy crunch because you can dial up or down the level of crunch in GURPS, right? You can play it with very few add-on bolts and make it pretty light, or you can play with a whole bunch of bolts, which makes it super, super crunchy. But I think for me, medium style, I think for me, I think of Palladium as heavy crunch. I think of Hero as pretty heavy crunch because that you can't really dial that one down. I think Falcon. Wait. I bet you I can make a rhyme out of anybody's name. The first letter of the name, I treat it like it wasn't there. And then a B or an F or an M will appear. And then I say Bo at a B, then I say the name, then banana, fan, or info. And then I say the name again with an F, very plain, then a Phi, and a Mo. And then I say the name again with an M this time, and there isn't any name that I can't rhyme. Falcon O. But if the first two letters are ever the same, I drop them both and say the name like Bob. Bob drop the B's, Bo, or Fred. Fred drop the F's for Red, or Mary. Mary drop the M's, Mo, Airy. That's the only rule that is contrary. Falcon of Venom, Falcon of Venom, Falcon Venom, Bo, Balcon of Venom, Banana, Fana, Fo, Alcon of Venom, Fee-Fi, Mo, Malkin of Venom. Falcon of Venom. Thank you for that resub. Love always has to be shared. So exciting. So, and the thing about GURPS is that while character creation is pretty detailed, although it's just like some accounting, I find that actually playing it is pretty elegant, especially if you're not using lots and lots of add-ons. It's just roll 3d6, roll low. You know what I mean? Like, and so I find it in play not particularly crunchy. I mean, you can get super crunchy with GURPS if you want to add in like all sorts of stuff, but I find in general it's like a medium crunch game that you can dial down to light or you can dial up to super heavy. But you and Paladin should totally do a duet. Ooh, Paladin's a very good singer. So I think of GURPS as not, I guess, like a lot of time. I mean, like I played a lot of GURPS where it was just like, oh, 3d6 roll low, boom, and you're fine. And with combat, you can make that heavier or lower. You know what I mean? So I find GURPS to be medium crunchy with dial up or dial down. Palladium, I think of pretty crunchy. I think of Shadowrun as pretty crunchy. I think of Shadowrun as crunchier than like medium GURPS. I think of Palladium as being crunchier. I think of Rollmaster as being crunchier. I think of Rifts as being crunchier. Hero as being crunchier. Yes. So before Rissa has to go, I'm gonna play a song for you. Yeah. So I have never played the lyre before. I just picked up this lyre from the internet for like $30, and I've learned one song, and now I've learned a second song. I was like, I'm gonna just figure out how to play this instrument. Now I'm gonna tell you, this is a kind of like I bought this for $30, and so it doesn't hold the strings don't hold tune very well, so I have to kind of retune it every time to keep everything in tune. So it's probably a little bit out of tune, but I'm calling you a liar, Vio. So this song that I'm going to play is another song I thought would be fitting for my character. for various reasons. And this is actually from the film The Innocents from 1965 with Deborah Kerr. And again, it's very short. And I think that I can play it, so I'm going to play it for you. It's called Oh Willow Whaley. And it's a little bit tricky, so I've been practicing. We'll get it. I don't know when I'm going to play it on stream, so. We lay, my love and I, beneath the weeping willow, but now alone I lie and weep beside the tree, singing, oh, willow whaley, by the tree that weeps with me, singing, oh, willow whaley, till my love returns to me. We lay, my love and I, beneath the weeping willow, but now alone I lie. Oh, willow, I die. Oh, willow, I die. Woo. How you doing? How you doing? Cheap instrument. More or less. More or less. More or less. Ooh. I bet the next time your bard will have to sing will be a festive occasion, so I suggest prepping an upbeat song. Oh, I don't know. My bard is pleasant, but he's not particularly upbeat on the inside. On the inside, he's sad. He's got sadness on the inside. On the outside, he's quite happy. On the inside, he's sad. It's interesting how many instruments boil down to our harps are different. Oh, Krellin, that is so true. That is so true. What would a Dutch person consider a typical Dutch sweet treat? Oh, licorice. Oh, chocolate sprinkles? Oh, yeah, there are a lot of basically different style harps. Yeah. Anyway, that's Oh Willow Whaley, and I love that song because it's so creepy. And it was in this sort of like thriller horror movie, and I thought it so good. And like, you know, oh, you and your love, and then like your love's gone, and then you die. Okay, I will catch you later, Rissa. Have a good meeting. And I'm sorry you have a meeting on a Saturday. That's no fun. That's no fun at all. Oh, hello. Here we go. Let me get my mic back to normal. Because I, did its thing for a little bit. And this needs to be back here as well. Ooh. What? Oh, every time I move my mic, you can see right there, that's some fabric for my costume for The Witcher. How is GURPS Roll 3 Get Low different from Shadowrun's roll pool count successes? I think it's because there's more calculation and work you have to do during play. So for me, I would love to play Little Mouse Grave on the lyre. I don't copy that. I'm gonna write it down. Well, first, it doesn't have PD anymore. Passive defense is no longer in GURPS 4E. It has DR. So, like, here's the thing: with GURPS, you can just not use hit locations at all. So then all that's done, and all that's gone. You've got hello, Kulan. You've got DR. Which I suppose if you didn't want to, you could just not use it. But I think like all those systems, it always felt to me like when I was watching. Also, first of all, I found Shadowrun character creation to be a bit less intuitive. I found that it was easier to make a character that just didn't work at all in Shadowrun. That you're like, oh, actually, I can't make this character work at all. And watching Corporate Sins, watching them sort of try to deal with automatic fire, weapons fire, and also their magic systems, they seem to have a lot of really different types of systems that functioned differently. where they were like, okay, if I'm a mage, I've got to do all these things, but that's really, really different. The systems are different than if I'm going to be a technomancer, so I've got to work out how sprites work. So like there was a lot of different systems that seemed very different. And so you couldn't just know how the game ran and then be fine. There was a lot, it seemed as if there was a lot of calculation in real time you would have to do, it seemed to me. Also the argle bargle of the 6th ed also seemed to be maybe not great, right? And it felt like there were a lot of things that didn't tend to match up with things. So there was a lot of from what I've seen when I was looking through it, there's a lot of like, oh wait, so no, how does this one work? Oh wait, no, how does this part work? A lot of these different things that were different systems that had to be calculated in play. All of SR's problems will be solved soon because they're releasing a new book that has all tons of errata worked in. Oh. I might consider Dark Heresy medium crunch, and part of this also has to deal with elegance of the system. So, for example, GURPS has a lot of combat options in terms of choices you make, but they basically come down to 2-to-1 attack versus combat. So you can get like a +2 to attack, -1 to combat. You can get, right, so like there's like an easy, like, oh, if I increase my attack, I'm gonna just attack versus defense, right? There's like a 2-to-1 attack versus defense ratio, so you can get a +2 on your attack, -1 on your defense, some ratio of that. So it all sort of basically makes a lot of sense. And I mean, I tend to think, I mean, I suppose I might have a higher tolerance for crunch than other people. I don't know. Like, I think of, for the most part, I think of World of Darkness as lighter than GURPS, but I don't think I would call it light. I would think of it like sort of like a light medium. Like I would think of like they're a light, because like now we have, because here's the thing, we now have super light games. Like we have games that are really, hey, Pope World Build. Like we have really light, like we have lighter games than we used to have back in the day. Like we have games that are really light. I mean, nowadays, like what is considered light versus medium versus heavy has skewed a little bit, because we now have games like Roll for Shoes or Honey Heist or Lasers versus Feelings, where everyone has one stat and you just roll one die and like that's it, right? There's I do mean Old World of Darkness. Thank you. Sorry, I kind of had a dud stream. Oh no. Try not to be down about it in real life stuff, but it's hard right now. Oh no, Kulan. Kulan, I give you a hug. I give you a virtual hug. Whatever that in real life stuff is, IRL stuff is, it will pass, because that is how life goes. Yeah, so I was asleep. So I think so I mean I would say we now have these like systems that fit on a 3x5 card. I'll just have to get up earlier in the morning is what it is. And you know I sometimes go to bed really late. But if I can get up early in the morning, then I'll definitely watch it. So for me, like World of Darkness is a lighter system than GURPS. Although you can make GURPS pretty light if you want to. But I think of like, yeah, and some things are actually pretty similar. Like I think of Fate as being lighter than average GURPS, although it's, again, I think of that as a medium crunch system. I don't think it's that light. How am I defining? Have I done much with VTM V5? I haven't. I've watched a bit of VTM V5, and I have looked through it, but I've not played it, so I don't know how it plays. Like I don't know what it feels like. So I've done a bit, right? I've played a lot of Old World of Darkness, and I'm familiar with V5, but I've not played it or run it, and that's how I really know. Like for me, a lot of it is, and I all of Sounds of Silence is more than a bit of watching. I've watched. Okay, that's fair. I've watched a lot of it. Here's another thing I want to say. Something about how I define light versus medium versus heavy crunch is another thing. I haven't played GURPS, but I would agree World of Darkness is a medium crunch, but on the light side of medium crunch. Yeah. So here's another thing. For me, part of it has to do with what I think of as light, medium, heavy is about how it runs. So in New World of Darkness, where each supernatural has its own rule set, crunchier than Old World of Darkness that tried. I like Mathis's geek gymming style as well. I think it would depend. I think lots of really different systems. It depends on if you have to know them to play, right? Like, so for example, if you're playing Vampire and you don't need to know the werewolf systems, then that doesn't necessarily make the World of Darkness itself overall more crunchy. But in D&D, if every class has a different system, you kind of have to know them. That becomes a little bit different. So I want to say this about light versus medium versus heavy, and one of the reasons why I think of GURPS as a medium crunch system, because this is a thing I'm realizing. Part of it has to do with how able am I as a GM to improvise in the system. I'm shocked how many different people don't change the way they speak in different mood scenes. You know, I mean, that's another level of skill, though. Like, I find it's really useful to sort of start speeding up your cadence if you want it to feel more urgent. Slow down your cadence if you want it to feel more relaxed. Like, but anyway, part of it is, for me, how easy is it for me to improvise in that system as a GM. And that's one of the things that I use to determine how heavy or light crunch a system is. If I cannot improvise, like if I'm running a game and somebody says, I want to attack that guard over there, and well, that often comes up. Yeah, but here's the thing. Pardon me. There are some games that it's really difficult to improvise monsters, because the way that monsters are built are really sort of kind of difficult and crunchy. So like I don't think a lot of people improvise monsters in D&D. Like even when I was on the top of my D&D game, I didn't improvise monsters. If somebody said go find goblins, I would pick up the monster manual. Yeah. And also, you don't really improvise monsters or people in Hero either, or Rifts. Like, those are things that the systems are so sort of set up that it's not particularly improv friendly. But in a lot of other systems, I could easily improvise. Even some systems even that you're new at. Like, I'm pretty new to Fate, but I can improvise people in Fate super easy. You take the core monster, maybe modify them slightly for D&D, and I can improvise. And I do have system mastery for GURPS, but I can improvise basic GURPS people pretty easily. Like, maybe not superpowers, but again, superpowers gets more crunchy. But like, if I'm doing a regular person, I know that a professional level skill is 12. If it's something that's kind of like deadly, a 14. And I know an average score is a 10. So if you say to me, I'm going to go and attack a guard, and I'm going to go, okay, it's a guard. The guard's going to have 10s in all their stats, an 11 in health and strength because they're a little bit beefier than the average person, and their weapon skill's going to be 14. Boom. Like, I can improvise characters because the benchmarks are pretty clear and open, and then I can improvise a combat pretty easily because the combat's pretty like basic itself. And so I think how clear numbers are, how elegant the combat system is, how much you have to sort of preset things, also informs my perception of how crunchy something is. I can improvise a guard in Shadowrun and simply pick a couple of die pools for guns and defense, armor value, and a wound track. I can improv everything except special abilities. Those might be a little tricky. So there's the ability to improvise, but then there's also how many different types of systems you have to deal with combat. So with Shadowrun, and again, maybe I'm wrong, it seems like there's a completely different system if you're a netrunner, a completely different system if you're an adept, a completely different system if you're a mage, a completely different system if you're a technomancer, and that all those things are different mechanics that you have to learn. And I was thinking about when Random Tuesday was saying that she's like, yeah, there are a lot of different systems, and I was just like, I'm gonna make the players in charge of that. I was like, they're gonna have to know what their systems are because it's just a lot. And if as a GM you say, okay, all these things are so radically different, I need you to be in charge of knowing what your stuff does rather than me as a GM being able to know what all the stuff does. And if I have to do like extensive cheat sheets, that feels like it's moving into heavier crunch to me. I think on-the-fly modifiers can add crunch to a system very easily. I suppose it depends. On-the-fly modifiers, I suppose it depends, right? I have to cook for the Mama Bunny, so I'm in lurk mode, but I can still hear lurk mode on. Cyberspace is a fully different system for the most part, but that's also because they have changed the cyberspace rules. I think literally every single edition of Shadowrun, magic rules are pretty consistent. Yeah, also when things are more vague, so you and the GM could disagree on what the ability does, that's always tricky. Although it's interesting about that one, PH, because a lot of really rules light system are also very vague. I find that the rules light can sometimes get super vague because they have no rules. So sometimes I think vagueness is not always a measure of whether or not something is heavy or light in terms of crunch, but maybe just elegance, which can be, because I suppose you could have a rules light system. Oh yeah, there's a lot of arguing about D&D, but I've also seen confusion and arguing about some of the, there's a lot of arguing about Fate, and Fate thinks of itself as a light. People argue about that one all the time. Yeah. Oh, you got a random craft project? What random craft project? What is it? Also, I don't think of D&D as light. People are like, D&D, it's a light system. I was like, I don't know why you think that. D&D is not light. I think of it as, depending on the edition, 3.5 I think of as being crunchier than medium GURPS. I think 3.5 is crunchier than medium GURPS. 5th edition D&D? I don't know. I don't know. No system that needs a full 8.5 by 11 character sheet is light. Disagree, Krellin. Only because I've seen 8.5 by 11 character sheets that are basically all fluff. They're all like, tell me about your character's feelings, right? Like where there's like almost no rules, but it's all about writing a character story. I think Falkenstein's like that, and that's pretty light. So I think that I think you can do it. Like there are a lot of like very story heavy character sheets that are all about like writing in all of your feelings, and that can be that's not a character, but it's framed as a character sheet, and they're like, you need this in your character sheet. My muff cover rusted off. Damn snow salt. Ooh, so I'm gonna turn it into some Warcraft terrain. Ooh, nice. Like if you have to check several modifiers every roll depending on basic modifiers, so the roll turns into a math problem. That's kind of, yeah. Agreed. Like my cleric has an ability that grants him special knowledge gifted by his god. Mechanically, he becomes proficient with a skill or a tool, but I've had an argument about what is or isn't a tool, and what being proficient with it means in terms of knowledge about the tool. But I feel like you could have those arguments in a light system as well, you know? But D&D has all sorts of arguments. I've got D&D, so I'm gonna have a good time at D&D. Have a good time at D&D. Thank you. Wait. Here we go. That's not a character. Yeah. I love thinking about my character like that. It's all complex for me, but I'm not very versed in RPG systems. Fair, but of course you sort of get to know certain things. I would say Pathfinder, so much pretty much D&D 3.5 is medium crunch, but on the heavier side of medium. Javai, I want to say yes, but maybe, or it might be on the light side of heavy crunch. Because I feel like 3.5 Pathfinder, especially when you're thinking about prestige classes and how the fact that in D&D 3.5 you would need to plan what classes you're going to take way in advance if you want to get a prestige class 15 levels down the line feels pretty heavy to me. Do you know? Pope World Build says, my metric is how often you need to consult a book or crunchier books. I think that is a good metric. Light referencing a book might be medium. Like if you reference the book a couple times, that might be medium. If you don't have to reference the book at all, that's light. If you reference the book a lot, heavy. Makes sense. I like it. How is it complicated? Peach, a tool is a tool. There's literally a list of tools, and proficient means you add your proficiency bonus to the check. Pathfinder is definitely heavy. They deliberately leaned into crunch. Right, but that list is very limiting. There might be tools that the list doesn't account for. However, I think Trooper's system mastery is making him weigh GURPS crunch a bit less than someone less experienced would. I think one of the reasons I think of GURPS as medium is because I've introduced GURPS to a lot of people who've never played RPGs before. Because here's the thing, let's be really fair. The people who are like super into D&D are not going to play GURPS. People who played a lot of RPGs are not, or who've been around a long time, are not going to play GURPS because GURPS has a bad reputation. So I find I'm much more likely to get new people to play GURPS than old people. And new people I found have no problem with GURPS. Now, character creation takes a while, right? So character creation is a bit of an investment, but once you start, it's like, because everything's pre-calculated, so you just like look at your skill, roll low. And so I usually don't use like heavy combat to start. Like I'll just use basic GURPS combat, and they don't tend to find it too difficult. So I found like your basic GURPS certainly not crunchier than AD&D 1E. I found AD&D 1E crunchier than like your basic GURPS. So it feels to me like GURPS, because of the fact that all the calculations are done before you start and you don't have to do a lot of calculations in play, is not that. It feels medium crunch to me. I mean, I don't think of it as heavy crunch. But I mean, you know, I think it depends on the group. My groups tend to go less crunch, so my opinion is shaped by that. I would design a 3.5 character at level 20 just so I knew how to get them there, says Atomica, and yes. But I'd also pre-plan maxed out Fallout characters too. I would probably do the same with Outer Worlds. I've been playing D&D for 15 years, and I'm just now looking to GURPS, so you're definitely right there. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, I mean, I find if I want to get people to play GURPS, they need to be new to RPGs or have not played them, or younger players. Like, if they are people who've not played, if they've only been playing GURPS for like deep RPGs for like 5 years or so, they probably don't have any sort of bad opinions about GURPS, so I can get them to play it. So I find newer players are more open, but if you've been playing since GURPS 3rd edition, which is like since the 80s, late 80s, 90s, you might have heard some bad things about it that might scare you off of it. Yeah, right. So I feel like people who've been playing for a while, right? Now, partly this is because of GURPS Vehicles 3rd edition, which was a system to design vehicles in a very, very crunchy way. If you wanted to like make your own vehicles from scratch in a very, very realistic way with physics, you'd get GURPS 3rd edition, which was very, very, very crunchy. But you never needed to do that if you didn't want to, right? So there are ways in which you can make a GURPS hyper crunchy if you wanted to. Like it could be super, 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 super crunchy, but I never needed to do that. so I didn't. Like, I just wasn't doing that. What do I think of the cons or weaknesses of GURPS? One, if you want to play a so there are a couple of cons and weaknesses. I can give you lots of them, and some of these are based on what your taste is. So first off, GURPS. So the main con weakness of GURPS is that, which is also a strength for some people. The big con that everybody says is there are not a lot of adventures written for GURPS. So that's one big one. So if you want pre-made adventures and modules, you're not going to get it. There are some pre-made modules, but they're not a lot. And many people, don't have time to do things, and so they want pre-made modules. That's often important for them. And pre-made modules also often help you understand how the game is played. So not having them can be a real barrier. Another con of GURPS is that it doesn't, and I'm going to say this, and this is actually just not true, but right, that it is a generic system, right? So rather than there being one setting and one, okay. So if I say to you, we're going to play Dungeons and Dragons, before I tell you anything about the game at all, you already know it's a fantasy system. I'm going to be playing some kind of adventurer that's going to be running around killing monsters, getting dragons, and getting power and loot. Like, you know what you're going to be doing in that game, and as a GM, you know what basically to do, right? You may want to do more, but at a basic level, you're like, okay, I just need to get some, or if I don't really know, I'll just get a module. But I know they're going to play classes, and making the characters are already sort of very simple. You just have to pick a class. Like, you don't have to come up with a concept. You're just like, oh, I'm going to be a fighter. Like, you can do more. You can do more if you want to. But on a basic level, if you know nothing and you're like completely like, you can be like, I'll play a fighter, and the game will give you a quick guide. They're just like, pick those 4 things. Here's your equipment, and you're like, okay, and then what do? There's a monster, I kill it, and then and you can do more, but like, and it's basic, it's very simple. Call of Cthulhu, you know what you're going into. Call of Cthulhu, you're going to be an investigator, and you're going to investigate mythos. There's going to be bad guy monsters. You got to try to figure out what's going on and stop Cthulhu from rising, and you're going to be some kind of investigator. It's pretty simple. And they give you like some archetypes of what investigators are. For a lot of games, what it is you're going to do is spelled out very specifically, and it's very structured in certain ways about what you're going to do and who you are. And the whole game is sort of crafted around that particular sort of set of constraints. And with those constraints, it becomes very easy as a game master to create the things. And also, most things are created for you, right? Like, you've got that 1920s handbook for Call of Cthulhu and lots of adventures. So you're like, oh, I'm just gonna run, Orient Express or Mask of Marvel. It's all done for you. If you're gonna run Night's Black Agents, all the players are going to be spies who are going to be fighting vampires, and the game's going to be about a conspiracy of vampires running the government that they have to take down. Boom. And then how to make it, like, everything is all set up for you. And then, of course, also their modules. And so what you're going to do. Character creation is fairly constrained in certain ways. It may not seem that way, but there are certain archetypes you're going to do, and it's all done. If you're going to play any of the Powered by the Apocalypse games, not only do they tell you exactly what you're going to do, they give you playbooks that are very, very constrained. You're like, if you're going to play Scum and Villainy, well, you know what you're going to do. In Scum and Villainy, you're going to be, one of these 3 ships. You pick what ship you want. You're either a bounty hunter ship, which means you're bounty hunters, or you're this kind of ship, which means you do this, or you're this kind of ship, which means you do that. And these are the 5 playbooks. You're gonna be one of those 5 playbooks. They give you everything you need. So everything is sort of set up for you, exactly what you're gonna do, what kind of person you're gonna be, and all the materials are all there for you. GURPS doesn't actually do that. Because it's a generic, you can do anything. You can do anything you want. Now, you can see from here, that's Dungeon Fantasy, down that way, and way off the end of the screen, you can't even see all of my GURPS books. I have a lot of GURPS books. They do give you things, but it's not like this sort of sustained. World of Darkness is sort of similar as well. It's not like a sustained line. Now, they do actually have lines. They have like a World War II line, they have a Transmitted Space line, but generally speaking, it's a system without that. So what do you want to be? You can be anything. You can be anything you want without limit. And so one of the other cons, which I think is a strength as well as a weakness, is that as a GM, you have a lot of choices you have to make. You have to decide, what power level do you want them to be? Do you want there to be supernatural powers or no? Do you want there to be magic? Which magic system? Because there are like 5 or 6 different magic systems that you can choose that all have different flavors. Do you want psionics? Do you not want psionics? How do you want to do psionics? Do you want it to be really deadly? Do you want it to be really cinematic? Do you want it to be gritty? Do you want it to be 4-color? Like what do you want them to do? Each way you could run it in all these, there's no built-in, I think it skews a little realistic, but you can change that. Like I think it's, as a system, it skews realistic, which may be a weakness if people don't want that, but you can change it. I can't think of a system with more books than GURPS though. Though Rifts, bless its heart, it did try. It did. So because there's no built-in assumption, a game master is going to have to do more work unless they pick up a book that has everything built in. So like, for example, GURPS Traveler Interstellar Wars, which I think is great, is a full setup. So if you want to run Traveler Interstellar Wars with that book, you don't really need anything else besides that one book, and you can run it. You don't, and like all the assumptions are built in for you, so you can do it pretty easy. But at its base, no assumptions are built in necessarily. So as a GM, you've got some work to do. And you may not want to do that work. You may just want to plug and play where you don't have to actually do a lot of prep, where you can just be like, well, like, here's my, I'm going to be running some stuff in Forgotten Realms, go. And here are all my NPCs and here's everything. With GURPS, you have to decide. And then on top of that, you've got to decide what the players are going to do. Right? I mean, like, and this, by the way, this is why there aren't really GURPS adventures. There are some, but there aren't many. And one of the reasons why there aren't many is because there's no base assumption of what the players are going to be doing, right? In D&D, every single class is combat competent. Every single one. Everyone. And there is an assumption that you'll be having combat. And so that's it. But in GURPS, you could make a bunch of bakers or who have no combat skills at all. None. 0. You can do that if you want to. And so it's hard to make an adventure when each game may be completely radically different, have really different assumptions about how the world works, because there are a lot of options. So for GMs, for players, I find GURPS is easier for players than it is for GMs, just I would say, because as a GM, you have to make a lot of choices. You've got to decide, do I want to use supernatural abilities or not? What things will be allowed? What things will not? What technology level? Will this be Ice Age? Will it be this far future? Do I want it to have sort of, do I want it to be hard science or soft science, science fantasy? What do I want to do? So the GM, as a GURPS, as a GM, you have to make a lot more choices, and you have to make a lot more, you have a lot more to work through than you would in a system that, and some of that is not even crunch. Some of that is just like, how do you want to conceive the world? And because there are a lot of options, that can be a lot for a GM who doesn't want to do that, who just wants to be like, game, tell me what to do. Like I was thinking about Adam Coble, and he was saying that he wants the game to tell you what to do. That he thinks the game should not be leaving a lot of things up to the GM, that he wants the game to tell you, this is how you play it, this is what you do. He wants everything sort of to be sort of game down, right? The game tells you what to do. You as the GM, you enact the game, and then the players play the game. But GURPS does not tell you what to do. The GM decides what to do with the players or whatever they want to do. So if you don't want to do that, if that's overwhelming for you, that would be a weakness of GURPS. He wants to play Descent, not D&D. I would argue that not only is D&D built on there being combat, it's built on there being fairly strong combat focus, yes. Sure, over time it has shifted a bit away from that, but there is still a strong focus on combat content. And I agree with you, Javai. Short of monsters and items, I think everything I've ever done has been homebrew, so I think I'll like GURPS. If you like homebrew, you will love GURPS. If you like homebrewing your stuff, you will love GURPS, right? But if you don't want to do that, you may like it less. Also, people who have analysis paralysis might not like GURPS because there are a lot of choices. I find there are ways around that, right? So for players, there are things to do to make GURPS easier for players than not. It depends. I guess it depends as a GM you want to run a game or create a game. Yeah, but I will note that you can just pick up something like GURPS Interstellar Wars and then you don't have to create it. So GURPS does have setting books where everything is created for you, so you don't actually have to create it in that moment. It's just that at its base, if you just get the base book that has no setting involved, then you've got to make stuff. You can get a setting book, so you don't have to create the stuff if you don't want to, but that would be one thing. Another thing is that there are a lot of books which can be overwhelming. People might think, oh, I need all the books. You don't need all the books. Really, you can just play with the basic set. Like you do not need any more books other than GURPS campaigns and characters. Those 2 books, that's all you need. There are a lot more books, all of which are awesome, but you don't need more. But many people will feel like they need more. They're like, oh no, I need 18 books. You don't need 18 books. 2. And actually, you can just play with GURPS Lite, which is free. I'm fighting that right now, Z. I have a campaign full of investigative adventures in a city. They rarely fight and absolutely avoid becoming murder hobos. I didn't even encourage them to be peaceful. They're awesome. That's all. It's great, but I find that D&D doesn't really support that so much. You can do it. So I think another weakness of GURPS is that I find that the GURPS forums are full of a bunch of super heavy grognardy. Like I think the biggest weakness of GURPS is probably the GURPS forums, because those GURPS people on the GURPS forums, man, they can be so irritating. First off, people are like, I'm new to GURPS. What do I need to know? And there'll be somebody who's going to show up and be like, you need these 18 books. You don't need the 18 books. Stop that. So like, I find that GURPS players, like Fate players, can be super irritating. Or forum people. GURPS forum people, like Fate Reddit people, can be super irritating. And I have no patience for that. So that's really irritating. Are there any books you would suggest for sci-fi GURPS? Okay, Atomica, here's what I'm going to ask you. What kind of sci-fi do you want? What kind of sci-fi do you want? And that's one of the GURPS questions that it's going to happen. Like, what kind of feeling do you want? Do you want space fantasy? Do you want hard sci-fi? What do you want? Planet-based? Do you want a lot of spacefaring? Do you want ship combat? What do you want? Would be my question. That would be a question I would ask. Are there any forum people that aren't annoying? Krellin, this is a very good question. Are there any forum people that aren't annoying? Here's what I will say. I feel like there are some scenes where you get a larger concentration of annoying people than other scenes. And the GURPS forums, on the other hand, to defend the GURPS forums, if you ask a question, people will help you. People are very, very helpful. But sometimes they just get a little bit like, I was like, whatever. Also, because GURPS can be played very different ways, there's not necessarily you might have incompatible play styles, more likely. I get the feeling that GURPS has a heavy requirement for starting, even if you can do it with few books. You still need to do some research to learn what it is you actually need. So my feeling is heavy setup, but not heavy in game. Although I haven't played GURPS, so it might be very off on that. It depends on what you're doing. If you're homebrewing, then yeah, there's going to be heavy setup. Right, if you're homebrewing. But you don't have to homebrew. A lot of GURPS people like to homebrew, though. Like, it is very much a system that rewards and supports homebrewers. So if you're going to do homebrewing, there's heavy setup. But you don't have to do homebrewing. Hard sci-fi, Star Wars tech-wise, no force, planet and space mix. Well, you'll want the basic set, definitely. So that's characters and campaigns. If you... Javai says, there are a ton of forum people that are not annoying, but most forums will have some really active members that have high requirements, and as they are often the most active and involved, they are also the loudest, and that is true. But I do find the GURPS forms this weird mix of people who are very, very friendly and like. So this, I think, is a problem with GURPS for me. Because you can play it many different ways, people get into these arguments about what is the right way to play, and I have no time for that. I have no time for that. And I'm going to tell you, one of these debates that I have no time for, it is like, for me, the most annoying thing about GURPS forum people. Like, the most annoying thing, and it makes me crazy, and I was like, ooh. The cult of stat normalization. There's a thing called the cult of stat normalization, and they are GURPS players, and there is no right way. It's correct. I got pissed and stopped playing with a guy because I hate that. So there are a group of people who are called the cult of stat normalization. It's a faction of GURPS people, and they have this idea of what is normal and realistic, and they are going to get their knickers in a twist if you do things. Okay, so for example, yes, these are the people who think everyone should have level 10s, right? So in GURPS, 10 is considered an average score. If you have a 10, that is an average score. So there are these sort of benchmarks for average, and they will say like an average person is 50 points, let's say. Average starting characters tend to be 150, although you can sort of place them wherever you want. And there are people who will sort of like go on and on and on about how it's not realistic to have a person that costs 150 points. Somebody's watching me, and I have no privacy. Whoa, I always feel that somebody's watching me. Tell me, is it just a dream? Drop the die? What? What are you doing here? Hey, it's Drop the Die. Drop the Die. Drop the Die is a streamer who I am playing with on the Purloin Code. Drop the Die. No, that wasn't it. Wait. Streamer. Drop the Die. Yes. How are you? I cannot believe that you did not follow me earlier. So yeah, they impose a normal distribution. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say these stat normalizers have never yes, thank you, Krillin. So that's the thing, right? The idea that somehow they get all upset if people have more points than that. I mean, I could maybe argue, not sure though, that there are right ways to play, but far from a universal way to play. What is the right way is shaped by circumstances, the group, the campaign, a ton of other factors. We'll have to think more about it though, yeah. I'm all right. I could have sworn I did follow you before, Suspicious Eyes. What if you did, and then a villain unfollowed me on your... I mean, I'm just saying there could be, like, villains. Hello, Toad. So here's what I was thinking about this, right? So they get really upset if you are unrealistic, because like, that's not a realistic thing. But here's the thing. Arnold Schwarzenegger is a real person. Like, he exists in the real world, and Arnold Schwarzenegger has really high strength, has a lot of money, has a lot of fame, has a bunch of skills. Dolph Lundgren, a lot of money, a lot of strength, a bunch of skills, and also is like an astrophysicist, so has high intelligence. Like, there are people who exist in the real world who cost a lot of points. Special forces people, if you're special forces, you're just gonna cost a lot of points, and you're a real person. You exist, you are realistic. Like, California is an actual state, yeah. I guarantee you that there's not a single member of the Navy SEALs or Green Berets who are 50-point characters. Exactly. So, while like your average person may be a 50-point character, it is not unrealistic to have a 200-point character. I don't think that 200-point characters are not realistic. They do exist in the real world. So, you know, so we disagree. We disagree. And they get really judgy and weird in ways that I find like not useful and irritating. Have they ever interacted with people in a group like ever? No one has equal skill levels. Yeah. So for me, that is, I think, the most annoying thing. That's not GURPS itself. It's just some people who play GURPS who make me crazy. But I think that GURPS, another thing that I would say would be a weakness, although for me it is a strength, Stephen Hawking existed. Yes, right? Even with his ALS, he didn't have enough dissats to pay for his intelligence. Yeah, right? He's like, there are always exceptions. And so me, I'm just a bit more sort of open that way. The other thing I would say would be a weakness of GURPS, but for me is also a strength, is the complete openness of character creation. So if you have a hard time deciding things, it can be overwhelming. But I find the way around that is just to say, you don't give somebody the book. You don't say, here's the book, go make a character. You say, hey, we're going to make a campaign where it's going to be Drop the Die and Krellin and Falcon of Venom and Kulan and Toad. We're all in the game together. And the game's going to be a game where I want us to sort of, let's make it 19th century. So let's make it let's Victorian era. So let's do Victorian era New York City. So it's not Old West. So like we're like 1870s. Let's do like the era of the Old West, but we're gonna do New York City. And I want everyone to be, let's see, part of a, it's gonna be, okay, so New York City, Victorian era, you'll all be, it's gonna be kind of like a supernatural investigator campaign. Sort of maybe like a little bit of, let's do like a bit of a Monster Hunter thing. So let's do it like a Monster Hunter in Victorian New York City, with a lot of social stuff and monster hunting. So there'll be some supernatural things, so you can have magic if you want. No psychic powers though, but so let's say there's magic. So that's our setup, sort of monster hunters, sort of thing, like kind of like a Buffy sort of a thing, but not exactly, a little more, maybe a little bit more realistic. Victorian New York City. So that's the setup, and what you'll be doing. What kind of character concept do you have? You ask that first, and then people describe their character concept, and then you make the character, right? So you don't just give them a book and be like, go wild. So you say, what are you interested in playing? Come up with a concept, and then it's much easier to make a character if you have the concept first. It's not as overwhelming. Like I can see an argument for balancing it for the sake of game balance, but that's not to say that it is realistic. Yeah. And also the thing is, GURPS is super balanced. It's just that I'm going to say, hey, everyone has 150 points. Go. Fixing dinner. Oh, pasta. I find the concept of Victorian in American setting to be completely incongruous. Well, a lot of Americans at that time period were like wanted to be English, so that's like weird. Yeah, so like the Order 1886. Sure, yeah. Right? I hate just being given the book and left on my own to create a character. Like, I want that book for sure, but please guide me through it and direct me. The book is almost always overwhelming for just character gen, and that is coming from someone relatively knowledgeable about TTRPG games. Right. So, Javai, just don't, and it's really bad for GURPS. Do not give people the book and just say make a character, because you have to give them guidance. You have to let them know, or else it will just be not great, is what I would say. Atomic says, that game has so much potential. A gentleman scholar in his late 40s with an interest in philosophy and literature more than anything else. Boom, drop the die, no problem. I was like, gentleman scholar? Okay, so you probably want to have good intelligence. You probably have a little bit of status, right? Some status and maybe a little bit of wealth. And if you're interested in philosophy and literature, here's some skills you'd be interested in. Boom, right? I've been invited to 2 GURPS games and never gotten past character creation. Then you need to have somebody help you through character creation. And that is work that if you're gonna do GURPS, a GM has to do that work. Like I know with D&D, people will just say, hey, make a 3rd level character, and that's it, and they'll just like leave you to it. But with GURPS, like with Fate, like with a number of generic games, you actually do need the GM to sort of be with you through character creation, because it is a conversation. It's a conversation. I've been playing GURPS for 25 years, and you cannot give me the GURPS book and ask me to make a character. That's partially because I understand GURPS, and GURPS, and I know I need a framework. Yeah. Lots of other games, you can give someone the book and let them make characters. It's true. It's true. There are games where you can just do that, and you can also not even care what they do. You can just say, hey, make a character, go. I'll see you later. But with this one, but not even just like Fate is also sort of this way. You kind of have to have some conversations about how the characters fit together, who they are, what's going on. Like, you know, it is a bit of a conversation that you need to have. But I don't think that's exclusive to GURPS. That's also, I think any kind of generic game where there are dials, you need to have those conversations. Like, you need to say, hey, here are the parameters for this particular, like, I think, yeah, like you should have the GM there for Rifts, for GURPS, for Fate, for Savage Worlds. You know, I realize that I've never played GURPS without a Session Zero, but we didn't have the concept of Session Zero yet. That is also true. Falcon of Venom says, I think it should be a conversation no matter the system. That is what I prefer. I like a good conversation. However, I do know that with D&D especially, oftentimes that will never happen. So many times people will play D&D and just not have a conversation. They'll just be like, hey, I mean, I have often been a player in D&D games where people are just like, yeah, we're gonna go and play a game, make a character, go. And you're like, oh, okay. I mean, I crave that conversation. This is, you know, I want to get something back to something that Krellin said about the Session Zero, which I think is really interesting. There are all these new things that are new in the TTRPG world, in the RPG world, where like Session Zeros, that's new. Talking about like lines and veils, that's new. And then like old D&D players are all mad about it, and they're like, Session Zero, why do you need a Session Zero? Lines and veils, why do you need lines and veils? What? Safety tools? What is all this newfangledness? The new people. And now that I'm thinking about it, actually, we always had Session Zeros in GURPS. We also had Session Zeros in Rifts. Like, there were a lot of games where we actually had Session Zeros. We didn't call it that, but we had them because we had to talk about what the campaign was. And actually, yeah, most of the games I've played, we have had Session Zeros. And also, lines and veils, we didn't do it with those terms, but every single horror game I did, Call of Cthulhu, World of Darkness, we talked about it a little bit. So those things were part, like, going back. You even have a Session Zero in D&D, you grognards, and that's also true, actually. I do remember having Session Zeros in D&D. And Krellin points out, that's why you didn't get groups full of nothing but fighters. And, hey, J.A. Pasco, and that's true. I remember having Session Zeros in D&D where you're like, okay, who's going to play the cleric? Especially in first edition, where that party composition was so important. Yeah, I totally remember having them then as well. So like this idea of being upset about it is so weird because we had them. I don't know what people are talking about. Javai says, I do also personally dislike DMs that don't start with asking for a general idea for a character. Yeah. But start with rolling or whatever, especially if playing with new players. Yeah. Like, I get that is a preference style, but I just find it so much easier to make the stats and skills make sense for new players if they already have the character concept in mind. I suppose it depends on the game system. Like, some game systems, that's not how they work. So, you know, I get it. But, like, there should be some kind of conversation. When you go, I'm playing the fighter, what are the rest of you playing? That's Session Zero. Yes, Krellin, that is true. Grognards feel infringed upon and lash out at any number of things to defend what was instead of what is, and what gaming is evolving into. Change is scary for those who refuse to change. I know, but what's so weird, Drop the Die, for me, this is my pet peeve about the Grognards, is that they say things like, well, yeah, but back in the 80s, we did X, Y, and Z. And I was like, well, I was playing in the 80s, and we didn't always do X, Y, and Z. Actually, I was doing A, B, and C. Like, this thing that gets me is they sort of say the way that it was, but that wasn't actually the only way that it was. There were other things back then too. And so for me, the thing that frustrates me about the Grognard is that they are erasing diversity in the past, right? It's not like we are diverse now in the kinds of games we have and the things we do, and back then it was only one thing. No, there was D&D, sure, but there was also Traveler, there was Chill, there was, I mean, there were other things in the past. Like, there was Dallas, the RPG, you know what I mean? Like, there were different things, and I think I get frustrated with the ways in which those kinds of grognards are basically erasing me from the past. Like, I existed in the 1980s and I was playing, and I didn't play like them. Like, and there were other people who didn't play like them, and they sort of make it seem like they were the only thing that existed in the past, when they weren't the only thing. There were other people, and I do not appreciate that. That's what I'm going to say about the grognard thing that I don't like. My view on the new things in the TTRPG community is that they have new terms because they are new to the D&D community. And the D&D community is often considered the same as the TTRPG community. Well, that's true, Jabai. Yes. Back then it was only one thing because their world was just them and their other white dude friends playing what they had. Yeah. And they never saw the diverse groups because they didn't get out of their bubble to see the diversity that was already there. You know, Carl, I think that's actually really true. And I think that's, yeah. And I think that because we didn't have the internet, I mean, we got the internet later, but because people were basically very insular, right? Like their gaming world was just their group, that if you didn't travel or if you didn't get out to see larger groups, you wouldn't necessarily know that there were other things happening. So you could imagine that you were the only one or that your way was the only way. But I think I was lucky that I joined the Army, so I played with a lot of different people. And also I went to 3 different high schools. So like I moved high school, so I played with different groups that way because I switched high schools. And then I was in the Army, so I played with a lot of different groups. So I got to see a lot of different styles of playing just because I moved. And I also moved. Ooh, be right. Ooh, be right. Oh, hey, drop the die if you're still here. You're in for a treat. You're in for a treat right now. Drop the die, because Be Right just gave us some bits, and when we get bits, I sing a song. I have a bit song that I sing, and I'm gonna sing the bit song, and we're gonna get back to this sort of interesting idea about sort of moving around. Right, and now we have the internet. Right now, all of a sudden, if you can imagine, I think this is pretty amazing about where we're at right now. In this current moment where we live, not only do we have the internet, like the internet, think about the internet. You can now see actual plays of people. Like I can see what Mathis is like as a GM over on Sounds of Silence. I can play with Little Red Dot and see what that's like. I can watch Critical Role. I can watch, all of a sudden now we have Twitch. I can see all of these really different styles of games and different kinds of gamers, and I think those styles of games were there in the past. I don't think that they only just started. It's just that now we can see them, so now we can be aware of all the differences that are happening, and for me that's exciting because I knew they were always there. Do you know what I mean? Okay, so because we got bits, I'm going to sing We're in the Money, as sung by Ginger Rogers in the film Gold Diggers of 1933, which she sang in Pig Latin. And so, to thank the bits, thank you, Be Right, for you, We're in the Money. Using a megaphone to be very period appropriate, very 1920s appropriate. Airway and hey, the anime. Airway and hey, the anime. Way at gay, lay at way at wakes to you take gay long way oh. Airway and hey, the anime. The ice skates are on say. Oh man, the aviation gray, we are ooh, three you are stay on way on rail. Wherever you eat bread, lay on slay, way at bread slay, ooh, today. And when we see the end, Lord will clap the eye, get in the eye. We're in the money, we're in the money. We've got a lot of what it takes to get along. Eee! Also, I'm so excited that Drop the Die's here, because Drop the Die can tell us stuff too. I'm so excited. Oh, yeah. Oh, speaking of which, I've got to finish up that last episode of Critical Role. Another issue with the TTRPG community is that most games are done in smaller groups. So your view on the global community is very likely heavily influenced by their local group, filling in the blanks for the global community with their own group. Yeah, I think that's totally true. Atomica says, in the 80s, communities didn't really have the communication ability the way we do now. So for a lot of people, they probably only ever saw D&D played one way because they didn't even know other groups, let alone entire communities. Yeah, 100%. And I'm really excited about the ways that we now have new ways of seeing things. Krellin says, from the first moment I got out of my bubble, which was college and the internet, there was a lot of diversity in the gaming community. I didn't see it before because it's hard for a teenager living with their parents to get out of their bubble. And that's also true when you're only playing with that same group of people. And also when it's super stigmatized and you're a big old nerd and there are only a couple of you, like you just don't get to see a lot of diversity. But once you get out, then all of a sudden, yeah. Because re-see our fucking Laura Bailey, no spoilers. Well, I'll have to finish that episode. Jabai says, you can also relatively easily find groups online if you're in a place where getting a local group together might be really difficult, and get into the hobby and find a good group rather than a mediocre group because it is mediocre or nothing. Oh, Shafai, that's also really good. I mean, it's amazing to me. I mean, I didn't think you could win D&D, but Laura proved me wrong. Oh, I need to go and, oh, I went to bed. So no, don't worry. I don't know what the spoilers are. It's fine. Laura did something. Yes. See, I'm with Krell on this one. Laura did something is not a spoiler. I'm totally with that one. And I cannot wait to find out what happened. I'm going to watch it tonight, I think. Yeah, and I think about the ways in which, I mean, I am really excited about our current moment. I love the fact that we're getting so many different kinds of games being made. I love the fact that you can find people online to play with, so you don't have to play with gross people who are in your local community if they're gross. Like, you don't have to do that. I love the fact that I've been able to play with Drop the Die, for example. It's like, if it hadn't been for the internet, I would never have been able to play with Drop the Die or all the people I've played with, that I can find people. And I think to add to this, when I was younger, it was really hard to find people who played something other than D&D. It is still hard to find people who will play something other than D&D. D&D is fine, but sometimes I want to play GURPS, or I want to play Cthulhu Confidential, or whatever else. And back then it was hard to do that. You had to convince your D&D group to take a break to play something else. But now, actually, you can just find people. You can say, hey, people online, does somebody want to play Changeling? And then you can find people to do it. And I love the ways in which internet forums have sort of opened up a space to find more people, right? And new kinds of games. And I mean, I love that. Toad says, I was a hard sell in GURPS coming from D&D, but it ended up being my most favorite character ever. Yeah. When I first, yeah. I mean, for me, what I like about GURPS, the thing that I love about GURPS maybe the most, now, here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say one of the things I loved about GURPS, and I realize the things I'm going to say now are not going to be, ooh, because it's 2020 and a lot of games have taken things that GURPS has done, and they also do them, right? So like so some of the things that I loved about it are also being done in new systems as well. I have a huge baseline of D&D players in my following, and anytime I step out into other games, the reaction is far more muted, yeah. But it almost always sways 1 to 2 people into being obsessed over what game it is. And like, we can do that now, and how great is that? D&D takes bites, it's so ubiquitous, and other systems take nibbles, but just getting people to taste it is the trick. It's true. And I find, I'm just gonna say this, I find playing other games will make your D&D better. In the same way that playing with other GMs will make your GMing better, or playing with other players will make your playing better. I find that sort of it's one of the reasons why I was determined to run Cthulhu Confidential, which is a style that is not my base style. Like, my base style, it's super module heavy, it's not particularly improv friendly, it's really narrativist. Like, there are things that I was like, ooh, that's not my base style, but I was like, you know what, I'm gonna run this because I really want to get this new style under my fingers, and that is going to make everything else I do, it's going to inform everything else I do, it's going to make me better in different ways, right? Because you get to see new things, and when I come back to GURPS, my GURPS will be better because I've done Cthulhu Confidential, and I really enjoyed this new 5e of D&D, and like there are interesting things there. Drop the Die says, 100% agree. Running other games also makes you a better DM. If you can play through a Call of Cthulhu scenario without having the players feel cheated and upset, you can do anything in D&D. That's also true, right? And you can I think it deepens. Diversity is in itself a good thing. Yes, even if you don't like the diversity you've exposed to, being exposed to it will change you for the betterment. Yeah, it's like biodiversity. Like, we don't want monocultures, then a plague wipes out everyone and we all die. Who wants that? Nobody. Like, that's bad. There was a thing that I wanted to say though, and it was it about, because I lost my train of thought. It was really good. I know what it was. It was some of the things I loved about GURPS. When I first came to GURPS, it was like 1988. And GURPS had something that no other game that I had played up to that point in time had. There may have been other systems that did it. I'm sure there were, but I had not played them. They had disadvantages. I do think there's something extra with a local in-person game as opposed to an online game, yes. But my main gaming group is online, still looking for a local game, partly to get some friends where I live, but still. Tried a local Call of Cthulhu game, but ended up leaving because travel times, yeah. A GM with a different style than my preference to a degree, and some issues with the system as well, I guess, yeah. To your point, drop the die. Purloincoid made me research Scum and Villainy, and now GURPS, since I want to run my own sci-fi RPG. Oh, I wanted to finish that thought for you, Atomica. So, disadvantages, right? The idea that, because like the kind of player I am, I like playing complicated characters that like have some problems or some struggles. And in D&D, I could do that. Like I was like, oh, I made a character out of secret, and like whatever, okay. Or like I wanted to make a character that was like that had this thing going on, and I could do that, but there was no mechanics for it at all. So it kind of just didn't matter, and the GM kind of didn't care that I was making these sort of characters that were a little bit. That was like, they were kind of complicated in terms of like their backstory and whatnot, because we were just killing things anyway. And so there was just no, like, I could just make it up, but it didn't matter. And in GURPS, all of a sudden it mattered, right? Like if I took that disadvantage, if I made my character up a secret, then all of a sudden got these points that I could use to get more stuff. So all of a sudden I can make, and the things that I could get, and this was another thing that I loved about GURPS, in GURPS, social status is a thing. So you could have a person who's a noble and it matters, or who's like a peasant and it matters, like it does something for you. That you could also pick wealth, and you could have a character that was rich and it would mean something, or who was really poor and it would mean something. That like all of a sudden all of these non-combat elements were built into the system in GURPS, and I'd never really Cthulhu had like income, like sort of wealth status, but like most of the games I played, there just wasn't any mechanical support for social things, right? For any of that. And all of a sudden here I'm playing GURPS, and I was like, wait, I can make a character who is a knight, and that knight could actually have would have status 1, and that means something, and that knight also could have like limited legal immunity, and that means something. Oh, and also my knight could maybe be have a secret that actually I don't know, whatever it is, like oh, that's amazing. Like all of a sudden these things that I could do, I could make a character and it would all matter. That was like for me this revelation in GURPS, coming from mostly D&D but not exclusively, and I loved that. Like it was one of the things that I loved about, and now more systems will do that, of course, but for me that was such an amazing thing, right? The plague god that is the player in the game Plague Inc. wants everyone to live in a monoculture and get wiped out by disease. Yep. I stuffed my mom lurk mode off. Welcome back. Javi says, I have for so long been considering playing a character with prosopagnosia, just unsure if I could do it well and also find a good way to do it and actually have it make sense in the game system and world. Mm-hmm. Your knight isn't the legitimate child of their knightly parents, but the product of an affair on the part of one of them. Right, for example, right? And so they could lose their status. Ooh, and these things mean something, and I love that. When will you do Call of Cthulhu Berlin? I'm not sure yet. I've got a couple other things on my plate first. I'm probably going to do Clockwork Dominion before I do Call of Cthulhu Berlin, but you know. And the one that wasn't vulnerable. Right, it's the one that wasn't vulnerable. Oops. Right, and for me, that was amazing. Like the ability to make a character in GURPS that wasn't a combat character was amazing to me, and that all these things mattered. I love that. Another thing that I loved, and this is where we're going to get a little bit crunchy, I loved that in GURPS you had combat choices that seemed interesting. So for example, okay, this is a GURPS thing that people think that makes GURPS a little bit more complicated, but I think it's fine. It is not it's fine, I think. Other systems do it, it's okay. That you have a defense roll. Like in D&D 1E, you got hit, that was it, right? Like if they hit your armor class, you get hit, that's it, and you take the damage. But in GURPS, like, you had a defense roll. So like somebody says they could hit you and I'm like, oh no, I'm gonna parry that. Like I love, and Witcher also has that. Like I love that you could parry, that you could block, that you could dodge. I love that. It made me feel as a player that you had more agency. Do you need something from a mod, Ice Bunny? If you do, let me know, because I can do a thing. so I loved that as a player, I felt like I had more agency because I could actually make defenses, but I would have to make choices. How badly do I want to defend? I love the fact that you could get your leg cut off. Like, there were just these like little things that would matter that I loved. I appreciated the way, like, there was just a lot about GURPS that I loved. I loved that your skill level was based on your stats, so that if you were really smart, you'd get higher levels at smart skills faster and cheaper. There was just a lot that I really loved about it. No, we're totally gonna play. We're gonna play. Dark Heresy has defense rolls too. You'd like Dark Heresy, except for the fact, well, I don't hate D100 systems. I should probably check out Dark Heresy. Like, I don't hate them. Like, they're fine. You know, I run the Call of Cthulhu. And RuneQuest. I mean, I like them more than one die. But I especially like if you can do something with them a little bit. Like, Unknown Armies has ways to manipulate those D100s. The new Call of Cthulhu has ways to manipulate the D100s. I don't know what Dark Heresy does, but like, as long as there's some way so that you can maybe make it a little bit less swingy, then I'm good. Yes, Krellin, I hear what you're saying. That's why some kind of way to manipulate those dice would make me a little bit happier. That's all. I had a single shot flintlock pistol, which was devastating, but you'd only get one shot per combat. Yes. My second flintlock was one of those bang flag joke pistols. And I love that. Dark Heresy has fate points that let you re-roll or modify results slightly. See, that will work for me. I also played a clip phase. Ooh, nice. I enjoy systems where there are differences between weapons. Yes. And it isn't just the same thing with a different skin or a different die for damage. Me too. And so there is a particular level of crunchiness that I enjoy because I like to feel... this is interesting. I was thinking about this. And we are going to play, I swear. We are. So here's the thing that I was thinking about. And this is sort of philosophical, but I know people who will say there's a concept that I've never really bought into that is really big in a number of systems, and that is niche protection. I always felt HP encompassed defensive actions, like the duel in Princess Bride. I always felt Inigo and Wesley were spending tons of HP even though neither got hit. Right, but I tend to like systems that don't have HP inflation, like your HP stays low. I like it. We're having my father's birthday lunch today, so you can play the game when I leave in a half hour or so. But HP is supposed to incorporate those things, but most people miss those rules. And I think one of the reasons why they miss those rules is because they're not consistent in terms of flavor. Like, healing potions heal you, but if your HP are not exactly your hit points, but also just luck, then that's weird, right? And so like it's a little bit inconsistent is what I would say. The flavoring of it is a little bit inconsistent. So that's a bit, niche protection, that's what I was gonna say. So there are people who really believe in niche protection. Why is it weird that magic can restore your luck, stamina, focus, and drive? I'll have to read the wording on the health potion. I'll have to read the wording on it. But you also have exhaustion, right? So you have exhaustion, which is not based on hit points. It might be weird because it is called healing. That might be it. I'll have to read how they describe the healing potion in the book again to see in 5th edition. Niche protection, right? So there are people who are like, you have to have niche protection, right? And so the idea of niche protection is that each character should be able to do something that no one else can do. Like, it doesn't, like, your game won't work if everyone can do the same thing. Like, so you need to sort of have some kind of artificial separation between the characters, or else the game, it won't be fun for the players if other people can do the same things that they can do. It's really only fun if they have their own niche that no one else can do. Otherwise, it's no fun. And I have never felt that way. And I think partly this is because of GURPS. I don't think any edition of HP since first has explicitly said HP represents luck, skill, and other abilities to avoid damages. Because first edition did. But then the other ones, they don't really seem to do that anymore. But like for me, I think that you don't need niche protection if the characters are different, right? If your character is only a set of stats, then maybe you need it. But I mean, in a game that has more nuance, that has a bit more crunch, for example, in a game that has a bit more diversity in the things you can do, then actually you can all, like, I've run Three Musketeers games where everyone's a musketeer, and so everyone has rapier and main gauche and various swashbuckling acrobatics. They all have the same base skills, but they're all different because they're different people. Like, one is a commoner who was able to get into the musketeers through great skill. One is actually a Spaniard who's sort of come to France, but like they all had different stories, and so they all brought something different to the table. And so for me, like I like a system. Here's what I will say: I do enjoy a system wherein even if you are the same profession, you can be a different kind of person. I do like that is a level of specificity that I like in a system, wherein I can say we're all going to be detectives, but each detective can be different. If the system can do that for me, I'm going to be happy about that system. Because I actually do like to run espionage quite a lot. It's one of my go-to systems. I don't think you've ever seen me run an espionage game, although you will. Espionage is my favorite, and in an espionage game, a lot of the players are going to have similar skills, but it's about all the things around it that I think is really exciting. Krillin says, "Ooh, I want to play the Spaniard Musketeer now." I think HP is just kind of an accepted term at this point, so going into detail isn't really a focus. Atomica says, "I have two similar sided bards. One is a half-long investigator who plays viola on the side, and the other is a kobold chef. Character matters, and too many people ignore that." Right, like I want character to be able to matter, and I do appreciate that modern D&D, certainly 5e, one could argue, we'd have to have a discussion about 3.5. I've never played 4, so I can't say, but certainly modern D&D is such that you could both, because they've got the specializations, that two fighters are not the same. And now that, and certainly, I mean, 1e was not this way at all because you didn't have skills yet, but you can really sort of shape your character differently based in background and skills, so two fighters may not be the same, and I appreciate that about 5e very much. Halfling. And actually, as Krellin once said, that D&D 5e is the edition that fixed a lot of the problems I had with earlier D&D, and I think that's actually true. There are a bunch of things about earlier in D&D that I was like, not my fave, and I do think that 5e has addressed quite a lot of those things, and so maybe some people won't like 5e for it, but I did. So we're going to continue this conversation. 4e, says Drop the Die, was absurdly customizable in that regard. There was a near 0% chance that two fighters would be the same. Oh, well, that's cool. You know, Drop the Die, I want to ask you a question. I'm going to just put on the Outer Worlds, and we're going to just kind of wander around the space station while we do it. I have a question for you. Did you like D&D 4e? I have never played it, and you know, it was people talked so much smack about it when it came out, and but I was suspicious of the smack talk. It just seemed like people were just like, I don't like change. And some of the things they said, I didn't feel right to me in terms of critique. And like some things, maybe it may have been fair, but some things, Toad says D&D 3.5 had some diehards, and that is true. And so I'm just kind of trying to, like, did you like it? Because I mean, I heard a lot of smack when it came out, but I don't necessarily trust the smack talk. It might have been totally fine. And actually, a friend of mine gave me, you can see it right there. A friend of mine gave me all of her 4 ebooks. And so I theoretically can, like, when I have time, could read it and find out if I like it. I do enjoy trying to create a different niche than the rest of the group, but I don't think it is a requirement for me. It just makes it easier. Especially when going into proper detail, like if there are two lockpicking thieves, but one is just plain better, it can get a bit less interesting than the one with the lower stat, depending on the game and the GM. I have a thought about that, Shivai. I have a thought about that. I'm going to come back to that. Krellin says, they'd be different in what powers they have, but I'm not sure I'd say they were really meaningful differences. So here's what I was going to say about this, about the idea of the two lockpicking thieves. For me, the way I like to run a game, for me, I'm speaking only for myself, yes? If your entirety of a character comes down to the fact that you can lockpick, I feel like I'm doing something wrong as a GM, right? If the only value you see in your character in the game, the only way you feel like you're contributing is because you can pick locks, and because someone else can pick locks better than you, you're meaningless, I feel like I am failing as a GM, and I need to really rethink what I'm doing. For me, I feel like, for me, what I think is that if I am doing my job right as a GM, I should be able to have 4 characters that have the exact same stats, but if they have different backstory, they should all feel different and they should all feel like they're being meaningful. Like, that is my goal. My goal in life is that even if each one of you is exactly the same, each one of you technically has the exact same stats and skills, which I find a little bit unlikely, but even so, you tell me your backstories. As long as your backstories are different, I will make each one of you feel special, and that each one of you will be able to learn things differently and contribute. Hold on, we're going to come back here for a second. And contribute differently to the story, even if your stats are exactly the same. That you'll have a different story and a different experience, and it will be meaningful in a different way. That is my goal as a GM. My goal as a GM is that if you say to me, I'm the Musketeer, and I'm a Spaniard, and I'm a Musketeer, and I'm a working class French peasant, and I'm a Musketeer, and I'm a sort of a bored, silly noble, and I'm a Musketeer, and I'm actually a secret spy for the Vatican. First, I imagine you're gonna have slightly different skills, but if each one of you had somehow the same skills, that I would make each one of you feel different and special, and that it would also matter mechanically for me as well. So if the Spaniard said, I'm gonna do I don't know, like an investigation check. Like, each one of you does an investigation check. I do this all the time. When somebody gives me an investigation check, I tailor that investigation check to who they are. So, like, if all 4 of those Musketeers have investigation, and all 4 of them do an investigation check, I would say to the Spaniard, I would say, okay, well, what do I know about that Spaniard? Well, they're a Spaniard, so I'd say, oh, you know what? You do an investigation check, and what you notice, actually, is that the clothing that this person is wearing is actually from Spain, and from Seville, and probably made by, like, the court, like, one of the, like, somebody who works for the court. And you made your investigation point by 2, somebody else, but the other people wouldn't know that part of the story because they're not from Spain. The peasant, I would say, yes, so this person, right, but you notice this person, you're investigating this body, but this person has got sort of really rough hands that says to you, and like the kind of calluses on their hands says to you that they are probably like a peasant as well. And then the person who's the noble, you would say, okay, well, you do your investigation check, and you happen to know that while Spanish noble clothing was all the rage in Paris, it was only the rage 5 years ago. So that's something that you notice. And for the person who is the Vatican spy, I would say, okay, so what you notice, like, I would try to make sure that, yeah, you all made that investigation check, but your investigation check will give you slightly different information based on who you are, so that you will always have something special about you, and it doesn't have to be because you're a different person, right? Like, I try to treat those PCs like they're people, and so that if the people are different, the information, like, you'll be special. I don't need you to be different classes, right? Jay Pasco says, I feel like 4E was really successful at achieving the design goals it set, but in retrospect, some of those goals might not have been the right ones, subjectively speaking. Mm-hmm. Drop the Die says, I loved 4E D&D. It was a tactics game first and foremost, an incredibly high fantasy, hammer blows that did 10d10 damage, and counter powers instead of short rest powers, etc. And the classes were very balanced mechanically, which a lot of people hated, but it made balancing encounters incredibly easy for DMs. Oh, interesting. I feel like I should probably run a D&D 4E game at one point in time and see what it feels like, or play in it at least. I'd play in a 4E game. It'd be a fun exercise to try to get through a campaign on only lockpicking checks. You go tame the wild horse. What do? I take out the picks. Carlin says, yeah, that jives with my feeling. 4E was a miniature combat game with extra systems attached, but it was a really good miniatures combat game. I like a good miniatures combat game. Javai, I mean, in an optimal group, I would agree, but not all groups are optimal that way, so not sure I agree as a general statement. But for a group that leans to that fully, I agree. Yeah, just for me as a DM, that's what I'm going for. I'm going for everyone to feel specialized. And this is because I don't tend to play murder hobo games. Like, for me, the character's really important. So like I could run a game with no stats and no skills and make everybody feel special. Or a game with the same stats and skills and make everybody feel special. Or different stats and skills make everybody feel special. Because for me, it's about the character, right? Like each character. Now, sometimes I'm running a game where people actually have to have different stats and skills because it's a space game and there needs to be a pilot and an engineer, right? Because that's actually just part of the in-game world. But, I try to make people feel individual. Like, I try not to make them, Dev is a pilot, but I hope Dev is not just a pilot. I hope that Dev is Dev. Do you know what I mean? But I also try to get players who are into that. Krellin says, each character would have stats, race, subclass equipment, a selection of dozen powers, and epic tier paragon selections. I'm not sure what you could possibly mean by meaningful differences. Each difference is meaningful to who a person is. Also, we never once used miniatures. Oh, so I cannot speak to that. I started using miniatures in 5e and gave them up about 9 months after. I just know combat tactics mattered a lot in 4e. That's so interesting. I love that you keep rolling back to this rogue lockpick thread when I'm literally learning all rogues campaign here on Twitch. Yes, you are. Oh yeah. Thank you, Krellin. Oh, so how is your Now it's interesting because some would argue that rogues are the most customizable class in D&D because of all the skills they get, at least in 3.5. I miss Devin Teddy. Teddy's right up there, by the way. So I suppose the question I would ask is, how's the game going? Drop the die. Your cast is amazing. Like, you've got a great cast, and I'm really excited to sort of check it out. So how's it going? And how is the customization happening? By the way, we're totally gonna... Can I just open this? So this looks really bad. Am I allowed to walk in here? I mean, it looks really red, but... holographic disguise. Trespassers we shot on sight and find. Holographic disguise activated. Your holographic shroud has activated, giving you temporary access to this restricted area. Moving drains the shroud's energy. When it runs out, personnel will see and interrogate you. Talk your way out of the interrogation to reset your shroud. It will get harder to talk your way out the more you are interrogated. Ooh. So yeah, tell me how that game is going. How are you enjoying operating room? Quarantine. Thanks. I'm gonna open this door. I'm gonna go in the quarantine.
You're sure this is perfectly safe?
Yes.
I'd rather not die early of an infectious disease myself.
Oh, no, we're fine. I think we're fine. It's going incredibly well, in my opinion. Last night was our first real combat encounter, and seeing all the PCs reach for different weapons and using different tactics was fantastic. I pitched the campaign as character-focused more than class-focused. Yeah, I am a big fan of character-focused games. It's my jam. And if I feel like in a character-focused game, you can do a lot with a lot. Also, my shroud is running out. Let me close this door. Let me do that. Let me just close that door so we don't get yelled at. You know? Also, I assume the person that we were looking... Hey. Yeah. The players to me loving it, and that's all I could ask for. Yeah, that's what I care about, too.
You hull-headed quacks do know that
Ellie sent me.
What? Why? Everything's fine. We're all fine here. No need for her to be worrying her pretty little head about me. I'm just terrible, dreadful sick is all. Got a cough that won't quit and sores all over my body. Highly, lethally contagious. But I'll be fine, so long as I'm left alone.
Yeah, no. Oh, see, Krellin, you're leaving now, aren't you? You're just done. You're done. Look, I figured we could get in like 50 minutes of game, right? Just like 50 minutes, I figured. Yeah, I think, and here's the thing, I actually really like the idea of all single class parties. Like, I like that. I think that it's, there's a lot of opportunity and interesting, but again, I'm also interested in novel ways of setting up parameters for character creation. Like, I like that quite a lot. Another thing that I would say, I will see you, Krellin. Enjoy, by the way. Another thing is that I actually like miniatures combat. I enjoy it quite a lot. Well, let me reframe this. I like miniatures combat if the miniatures rules are good. If the miniatures rules are good, then I really like it. But they have to be meaningful and interesting. They have to do something. Or like, I'm not really into it if they don't really do anything. If there's like, meh. If that's all, we can just draw a little map and just show where people are. But if there's going to be miniatures combat, then I want the miniatures combat to be well done. On the flip side, if you're making a game that has no miniatures combat, then I want those rules to also work for that as well. Like, I think that you have to sort of think about how you're putting your game together and make sure that those rules fit that. I'm going to intimidate.
Should have known she'd send a bruiser after me. Damned if I don't rue the day I saved her scrawny little hide. Inadvertently, I befriended a bloodhound in the process. All right, okay. We can discuss this like the level-headed folk that we are. Seems I've got to do something before Ellie goes jabbering my business to anyone with one ear and an intent to listen.
Great. Also, Drummer Boy, is there a timer on my stream? Wait, do I have a timer? What? Who? What? What? I feel like we're gonna talk to this person.
You ain't with the board, are you?
No.
See, I owe them a lot. I might have missed a payment or two, and the other night I swear someone was following me back to my room. So I hold up here to lay low.
Oh. Huh. Well, Ellie asked me to help you, so that's what I'm gonna do.
Udon Bedford's the board guy on the station.
Yeah?
He'd know how I stand with them. If you can square things for me, I'd owe you one even bigger than Ellie owes me.
What did you do that got you into trouble?
What? No, I didn't do anything. I'm a law-abiding denizen of this ship, I swear.
Yet, you'd think the board had someone follow you and now you're hiding out.
Think? No. I recognize a contracted killer when I see one, thank you. In my line of work, that's a skill you develop during week 1, assuming you want to keep breathing. All right, I'll fess this part up too, if it means you'll help me.
I'll help.
I'm a thief.
Oh,
I specialize in particularly high-end and historically valuable items.
okay.
3 weeks back, I caught rumor that the blood tier diamond, last worn by an heiress on the Lost Hope, had surfaced for the first time in 70 years.
Interesting. So, I love RPGs, and it's interesting because I also think that my particular sort of character-focused way of doing things, which is just my way of doing it, is not the only way to do it, and I don't think it's the better way. I don't think it's objectively better. I dropped something. I was playing with the thing. I think there are a lot of ways to play, and it's so funny. You know what I think is really funny? I'm going to tell you what I think is funny. I spent most of my youth hating the murder hobo style. Like, just hating it. Like, really being, like, miserable. Mainly because all the groups I was in, they would only murder hobo, and they were also really terrible people. And I just had no fun. Like, I had no fun at all. It was really punishing and not fun, and I was not having a good time at all. At all. And even though I spent most of my youth just like, I think this is like age, or maybe it's just me. I don't know. But I spent a lot of time bagging on that style and not liking it at all, and just, being unhappy. But now that I'm older, it's cool. Like, it's still not my style of play. Like, it's not. I mean, I do like a good crunchy combat, but like, it's not my style. But now I feel like it's important to defend that style. Like, just because it's not my style doesn't mean it's a bad style. And there are people who really enjoy it. There are people who love having a big full-on murder hobo style where they've had a long day at work and all they want to do is like not think and just murder some orcs. That's all they want to do. Or they really like the puzzle of trying to figure out of beating the GM. Like the GM's going to give them really hard, like, you know, Tomb of Horrors sort of challenges, and they want to like use all their brain power to sort of overcome those challenges. They like a sort of an oppositional relationship with their GM, or they like a murder hobo. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. I hated it when I was younger because I had no other options. Like, there was no other way for me to play, and I didn't enjoy that. But now, like, I'm over it. Like, I don't feel the need to bag on that style in any way. And I just feel sad that I see a lot of people bagging on the style now. Like, they're like, and not just like, I don't like it, but more like, if you like this, you're a bad person, or you should never play this way, or that's not the way you're supposed to play. Let people play. There's no one true way. And so I find that, sort of ironically, being the kind, like, I find myself defending these styles that are not my preferred styles just because I feel like it's okay for you to like that style if you want it. I think it's just important for people to be upfront about what they like and what they want to play so that people can know, people can find other players who are compatible with them. That's all. That's partly me. I like the combat puzzles that show up. I like a good combat. Like, one of the reasons why I love GURPS is because you can do some really good crunchy combat with it if you like, that I enjoy. But, you know, you can do it other ways as well. My mom just looked puzzled. She's not getting us talk for so long. Not my style, but perfectly valid style. Although, if not often, but not always often, it comes with other issues. But here's the thing I will say, Javai. That sort of like story style with no GM where it's all loosey-goosey, that also comes with problems. And people do not acknowledge the problems that come with that style as well. Like, you can have problems with any style. Do you know what's a big problem with that? Like, there's no GM and there's like really no rules. God modding. There'll be those people who will basically, because there are no rules in place, will just dominate. And like, you can be a terrible power gamer and make other people's games really unfun when there's no structure, because there's no structure to stop you. So you can just be like, and I was watching a stream where I saw it happen. I was watching a stream that was using a system that I will not name because I did not want you to figure out what stream I was talking about, that was using a system that is like basically no GM and very, very rules light, cooperative storytelling. And one player just decided that they wanted the story to go a different way than the way it was going, and they basically undermined entire character arcs from other players. They did a number because there was nothing to stop them. They just basically invalidated all sorts of stuff and basically won. Like, they just decided to have the game go some other way, and there was nothing to stop them. And I feel like there are, and like, if you are a very selfish gamer, especially one who can talk a talk, you can dominate and make those very rules light, no GM games very unfun for a lot of people. And so, like, all the game styles can be abused, or they can be played really well. And so I just think, you know, like, yeah. And she's not understanding English, but not that would help her understand RPGs. Tell your mother hello. We're going to ask, what does this have to do with the board? And so...
Udom was my buyer for when I'd acquired the diamond. He paid half up front to finance the operation. Let's just say things went sideways about the time I got my hands on the diamond, and it crumbled to stardust in my palm.
Awkward.
Anywho, I barely made it out with my life, and nary a plan to make back Udom's deposit I'd spent.
For me, the issues with the Just Combat Puzzles game style is with the portrayal of the enemy races. Like, if you just diversify that just a little bit, I have no issues. Yeah, but now, of course, the whole enemy races thing is super D&D, but you could do that. Oh, thank you, Ice Bunny. But you can do that with different systems, right? Like, you could do it differently. I mean, yeah. And yeah, I mean, Javai, I'm with you, right? Basically, at my core, I'm totally with you. And I was like, well, you could do, like, people like to get around this by just having skeletons, like the undead. They're like, it's okay to, like, just have mass murder of the undead. That's one way around it. I mean, personally, I'm like, we'll see how this goes. Oh, this is true. I'll talk to Udom for you.
Thanks for helping me with the board. You're a real pal. Or I guess I should say, Ellie is one, huh?
Yeah. By the way, I ran out of my shroud. I don't know how I get it back. I'll just try to get out of here, I suppose. I mean, I think I'm in trouble, but you know, yeah, we'll just see how that goes. We'll see how it goes. It's totally possible. It's my impression is that many groups don't. Yeah. That was Ms. Doyle. Yeah, because you know that's what they're into. Although I do think undead is quite popular. No, I did not steal her things. I'm stealing other people's things. I'm just not stealing her things. I think we're gonna get in trouble when we walk out of here. Side note. Ooh, let's pick this lock. By the way, we are clearly not getting huge amounts of Outer Worlds done today, but it was a lot of RPG talk, and that always makes me happy. It always makes me happy, so I'm not mad. But, you know, ooh, let's take all the stolen stuff. All right, so here's the deal. We have to get out of here, and I think we're gonna get in trouble. So.
What? What's that? Hey,
Hi.
What do you think you're doing?
I was just leaving.
Just don't make more paperwork for me, all right?
I won't. So we're gonna go into this operating room and see what we can find. Just to see if we can find stuff. Cause, ugh. For that kind of mindless thing, I do think undead is a good choice. There are ways to make that more complex, but I find it more acceptable than the options. Yeah, I feel like that tends to be one of the more acceptable ways of getting about it.
Impressive as always.
Let's go in here. We're gonna steal all the stuff? Oh, hey. What's that? What do you think? I think we're gonna get in trouble again, but I think we'll be fine, right? Yeah, there's a little grossness over there, but it's a little bit. Do you think it's bad that all I do is steal people's stuff? Nah, I think it's fine. I think it's fine, right? Oop. That's all. So undead. Now, I will say there's something that people will do that makes me feel a little uncomfortable. And that is, let's go here. Oh, hey. Where are we? What is this place? The very clear magical nature of undeads also means you can easily fluff it in a way that makes it not a bad thing to kill undead, yeah. RP undead, 80 cartoons, robot enemies. Yes, yeah. 80s robot enemies are also totally acceptable. You can actually look at children's literature. Children's cartoons will often show you the things that you are and are not allowed to murder without it being sort of sketchy. But on this topic, hey, where do you think we are? I mean, we're not going to be in trouble, apparently, but where are we? I find this very mysterious. Like, where are we? So this is going to bring up a thing that got me in trouble with the viewer, but I still stand by it. And are Mad Hatters to be murdered? So I feel uncomfortable with, so like, who are the people that you're allowed to just mass slaughter without worrying about it? Undead, robots, Nazis. And what is this? Oh, it's a squatter's journal. And I don't feel all that comfortable with games where you just mass murder Nazis and never have to think about it at all. Because Nazis are human beings, and I just feel like the mass slaughter of human beings is something that you shouldn't feel great about. People did have PTSD who fought in the war. Like, they got involved in killing, and it was traumatic for them. And so for me, I just don't feel all that personally comfortable with games that set up the mass slaughter of human beings as like fun or great or no big deal. I kind of feel like it should be a thing. Now, you can always play a game where you just mass slaughter people and it's not a big deal, and there are games, and play them if you want to do. But just for me personally, you know, I just that doesn't tend to be the thing that I want to do in my games, because I tend to want my games to be a little bit more psychologically grounded, less power fantasy, less sort of escapism that way. So, you know, I'm going to run this French. Yeah. Yeah, that's all. I just think, what are you doing with your game? Like, what are the politics of your game? And are your politics that murder's cool if the person you're murdering is a bad guy? Like, I don't, and that there should be like no emotional response to that. So like, that's not necessarily where I'm at. And I don't want to do that in the French Resistance campaign. I don't want to make it so that they can just murder French collaborators without having to think about it, or German soldiers who may not even be Nazis and not even think about it. Like, and just like, we're just going to murder people and have it be fine. Like, I don't, that's not the story necessarily that I want to explore. I don't want to explore a story where you just run through mowing people down with machine guns and that's cool. Javai says, I do think it is complex, especially if it takes place in a Nazi country or whatever, where everyone counts as a Nazi to be killed, which would likely include civilians that don't have a choice in the matter, really. Yes. The resistance was never about wanton killing. That is also correct. And that is also correct. Drummer Boy says, I guess it depends on if you can change the mind of the enemy if they are human, rather than just fighting, killing, and dying for a war started by a few men. Yeah. Delving into Das Boot territory. Yeah, Das Boot was a brilliant film. Yes, I'm there with both of it, right? And I thought Das Boot was, I got to see the director's cut of Das Boot. It was amazing. So like, I just kind of want complexity, and I want us to think about violence. I understand that is not all games, right? And I also understand that what I'm talking about would not be appropriate for some styles of games. Like, if somebody wants to play a murder hobo D&D game where they go into dungeons and kill the monsters, get the treasure, and level up, and they're really excited about it, and they really want to do this because it's part of their catharsis, because they have a crappy life, and they just want to kill lots of things, it would not be good of me as a GM to be like, okay, you walk into the dungeon and there are some goblins, and they're like, we kill the goblins, and like, as you stab the goblin, it cries, and it's like, why did you hurt me? And you see it bleeding, and then it's like, small child stands in the corner weeping. Like, I understand that would not be appropriate, because that is not the contract that everybody signed up on, that every time they kill a goblin, I make you feel guilty about it. Like, that would not be appropriate. I get that, and I would not do that in that style of game, because I understand that would be inappropriate jamming to do that, and I wouldn't do it. But I also like to play games where that is a thing that you sometimes think about. That's all. Some of my favorite OSS pranks: putting itching powder in SS underwear. Mm-hmm. I've got Director's Cut on DVD. Really makes you think, oh, Kulan, it really does. The director's cut of Das Boot is so good. I got to see it in the theater because they did for its anniversary or whatever. So good. It really made me think about things. Atomica says, it makes me think about Saving Private Ryan, where they shoot the two soldiers begging for their lives because they were Polish, I think, and can't communicate in English before they're executed, that they were forced into the military. Yeah, right? So, like, I just want to, you know, right? Like, I want, those are the stories that I'm interested in, because those are the stories that allow you to do more, like, sort of the kind of character exploration that I'm interested in. But I also understand that if somebody asked me to play And I also understand that it also depends on genre. Like, a lot of this is genre. If I were going to run a cliffhangers game, like a pulp serial, kind of 1930s serial style Indiana Jones sort of game, I understand that in that game, I would also not give lots of shades of gray in that game either, because that's not what that genre is. And if I say to people I'm going to be running like a cliffhangers pulp serial, they're going to expect that. And if I gave them something else, that would be a bait and switch. So I do think it's important as a GM to have a discussion with your players about what kind and style of game you're doing, and that also involves how you're going to deal with morality and killing. And you have to get everybody's consent to play in the kind of game. Otherwise, it's not going to be fun for people, you know? I made Toad feel bad for the party killing a creature because he cooked one and then found out it was sentient. Yeah, for that kind of dungeon crawl you're talking about, I think undeads or robots are other similar beings that can easily be considered to be mindless, soulless, and isn't based on real world cultures, or the best enemies to include, right? So, like, I just think that as a GM, I have a responsibility to be clear about the kind of genre we're in and also play fair. Like, I think that the biggest thing I would say, no matter what kind of game you're playing, here's my Pennington GM tip, right? Here we go. Trooper SJP GM tip. Play fair. And you can do a lot of things, but you have to play fair. And what does playing fair mean? Playing fair means that you're playing within the rules and expectations of the game and genre and campaign that you have pitched and that people agreed to. So if players want to play an antagonistic GMPC old school D&D 1E game, there is a way to play fair in that system. You don't say rocks fall, everybody dies. That's not playing fair. There are things you can do and things you can't do within that setup of an antagonistic GM player campaign. And there are things that are unfair, so you don't do the unfair things. If you're playing in a game where it's supposed to be white hats, black hats, no shades of gray, it's not playing fair as a GM to introduce lots of shades of gray in that campaign, because that's not fair. If you're playing in a game where it's supposed to be rated G, it's not fair to start putting in rated R stuff when everybody agreed to a rated G game. Even if those things are not lines and veils, it's still not fair. It's not fair to say that you're playing a high-powered, fantastical four-color game and then make everybody die of, like, dysentery. That's not fair. That's not fair play. So if you're playing an Oregon Trail game, dysentery is totally on the table. That's fair. So I think that I think that the most important thing to do as a GM is to have a sense of fair play that is based on the system you're playing, the campaign you're playing, the expectations, the genre, the themes. And that I think, that for me is like the core GM responsibility, is fair play. Recognizing that fair play is really different depending on the kind of game it is, and just like know what it is, right? Yeah, even if you're playing against each other, there are rules to follow, says Jabai. Like soccer match includes two teams going against each other. It doesn't mean the players can just do whatever they want. Exactly. Squatter's Journal. I served on 2 corporate freighters before I got stranded here. Everyone's heard my sob story, but no one's listening. To them, I'm just background radiation. Wasn't my fault the captain decided to take off early. Wasn't my fault no one checked the crew manifest. Wasn't my fault they replaced me with a full-timer. Now I'm filthy, bitless, and bedless. As far as anyone's concerned, I'm groundbreaker trash. That's how I live. And if no one agrees to take me on as crew, I suppose that's how I'll die. Oh, who is this squatter? Do they need help? Can I find this squatter? And maybe help them? Maybe? What if they said something really biting when they dissed Terry? That's fine though. Yeah, you can diss Terry. That's fine. That's totally fine. But they can fall over and act hurt to see if the other player gets in trouble. Yes. So, you know, I just think it's important. Oh, hey, I know where we are. No? I should probably get my shotgun back. Nope. Stand up. That's jumping. Stand up. Okay. Put away your weapon. So yeah, that's my thing. Fair play. What's in here? Oh, I don't think that's important. All right. So we have done a bunch of things. Well, we haven't. We actually just wandered around. But I feel like we talked to Moon Man. We went to the medical bay. We do have people to talk to, and we're gonna do it. I mean, we went. Did we go here? I don't think we did. I think we went to the Lost Hope, the bar, but I don't think we went here. So we'll do that. That's a good thing to have. Hello, Belle Everson. I mean, you can probably push the rules like faking that in a soccer match, but you can't just pick up the ball and carry it within your hands or bring a weapon to the field in order to take down the opposite team. Right, and you can't just punch people in the face. Do you know what I mean? Like, there are red cards.
That sound when you've snapped on an injector clip? That's how you know your weapon loves you back. I got a full line of weapon modifications I'd be happy to show you.
Oh, well, let me see what you got for sale. And let me just see actually if I can just sell things like this. So let me just sell that. The cigarette lighter. That's all. And you've got a lot of weapon mods. I just don't feel like I'm going to buy anything right now. I mean, there are a lot of things here, but I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to buy. Like, there's a lot of stuff that maybe is like, there might be like, these are probably better weapons than what I have, but I wish I could compare. No, Nojba, you can only pick up the ball either in A, Gaelic football, or be at a private school and invent rugby. So I feel like there are probably better weapons than what I have, but I also don't have a lot of money. So yeah, I don't have a lot of money right now. So I'm not gonna, oh, but you know what? Maybe I can sell some stuff. Like, there might be some things I could sell. Like, I can sell this plasma rifle. If you invent rugby, you can also punch people. Sort of win-win. Because I don't have enough money, I'm gonna just sell some of this stuff. And hope... Oop, I think I sold the wrong one. I just sold the wrong one. Oh well. You know what? It's life. I won't die. It's fine. It's fine. Sell one of those. Sell one of those. That's fine. You know, how but to the earlier point, don't say let's play soccer, then show up and play rugby. Full circle. Yeah. Yes. And I just feel like, come on. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I have a discount. Sweet. That's cool. I suppose I can't go in there. Look, we talked to like all sorts of people. I feel like we have been so productive right now. And I realize you're like, have we? We have. Some of that productivity involved a lot of really cool RPG talking, so...
I was wondering what they do with their waste. I guess they just chuck it down here.
Oh.
Where's it all go?
Well, let's find out, shall we? Maybe we shouldn't, but let's find out. I'm up for exploring.
How about I stay up top? You know, keep watch.
Sure.
Okay?
I'm not afraid of being in a junk garbage place. Yeah, I don't know. Ooh. Hey. Somebody died in here. Somebody does not have a head. That seems bad, right? Let's pick this up. What is this? I do not mind scroll streams. I don't mind them. I mean, next week we'll just get more skeptical Thor gif. I wish I had more time for the actual playing of RPGs. So much writing tunes for and watching RPG shows, not enough time playing. Drummer Boy, speaking of which, I need to just think about how's your you know, I'm making a list, Drummer Boy. Drummer Boy, I'm making a list. And I'm checking it twice, and I'm gonna put you on my list. I'm making a list because I was like, okay, now that I'm gonna be producing longer form RPGs, I already got somebody to make the theme song for the the current show. But what I wanted to do is make a list of all of like the artists and composers and overlay artists, character artists that I can think of, so that I can like in the future, within the next campaign, maybe like, oh, like I can ask you to like do a theme for Clockwork Dominion or whatever, right? So like I'm just making a list of all my artist people so that I can, when time comes for it, I can remember who I can ask. Commission. Yeah, hi Levi. You did not miss the whole stream, but you have not missed much of the game playing, but you've missed a lot of discussing RPGs. Really good stuff. Crumpled instructions. Frankie got a lead on some local salvage. One of Groundbreaker's old hangars was bricked until someone found it by poking around the stevedore's quarters. Lilia gave us the go-ahead to plant her flag once we clear out the new arrivals. I'm sending you to scout. Look for a loose panel. You got to climb on top of their bunks and head toward the back wall. Lilia says you should watch our backs. She thinks we're being tailed. In other words, typical Lilia. Oh, that's weird. For sure, if I have the time, I normally do, but sometimes it won't be for a while anyway. It won't be for a while, because I'm all set up until... I'm basically all set up spring and summer, I think. But I'm looking into doing something in the fall. Yeah. Oh, coffee. Third birthday party. Aw, 3 is such an interesting age. All right, so one of the old hangars was Stevedore's quarters. So I feel like we should remember that. I feel like we should remember that because Stevedore's quarters. We just have to find the Stevedore's quarters. Weren't we in some quarters, though? Weren't we in some quarters? I feel like we were. And I just feel like we were. So, chased by tiny humans and cake. So this is Spacer's Choice. We're looking for Stevedore's quarters. Was this in the Rest and Go or no? Lost Hope. Bell's Shells. Waste Disposal. Rest and Go. Was it the Rest and Go? Probably not. It probably wasn't the Rest and Go. It was probably somewhere else. It was probably somewhere else. We will keep our eye out for the Stevedore's quarters. But we like, I feel like we were not completely unproductive. We'll just have to find the Stevedore's quarters. Hello. Here we are. How are you?
CNP worst. It's not the worst unless it's worst.
Who are our recent users on this public access terminal? He's making a list, checking your names to see if you can compose music for games. Trooper Claus, he's making a list, checking your names to see if you can compose music for games. Trooper Claus is coming to town. There might, oh yeah, that's true. There might be, I'll check the docking bay. That makes sense. Callahan M, signed M, B. Iverson, T. Oyama. Access user M. Callahan. Welcome M. Callahan displaying recent messages. All right. From SC Manager to Callahan M. The Hat. You made your Spacer's Choice when you signed the employment contract. Callum says, I keep telling you the hat doesn't fit right. There's something wrong with it. How many people have worn this thing before me? Is this my life now? Because if it is, I'll take it. I'll be your moon man, but there won't be anything left of me to care. Oh, poor Martin. Oh, no. From Mama C. Subject, Rehi Mom. Are you okay, honey? Hope you're doing well, Mom. Thought I'd check in. Engineers visit the shop a bunch. I remember when I used to turn a wrench back home on Terra 2. Lilia Hagenover and Sublight told me that I could always pursue a career in salvage if this thing doesn't work out. Please give Dad and the others a hug from me. Mom, it's really great that we can stay in touch like this. Little reminders of home are more important than ever. Enjoy the quality Spacer's Choice goods I sent. You can get ones just like them at home, but I figured you might appreciate me getting the company discount and all. Oh, Martin. Martin. We have some public notices. The heat. I know it's bad. As the one whose office is closest to our radiators, you can imagine why I want to take 3 showers every day. I hear you. We've got eyes on the problem, and hands, and tools. It's a mechanical problem with a mechanical solution. In the meantime, enjoy some additional water rations and take breaks. You deserve them. If you're thirsting for cooler air, talk to your closest engineer about spots with favorable circulation. Seeking contractors, sublight salvage. Seeking ethically flexible spacer with cellar bay landing clearance. Payment exchange for return of legal salvage. Details given upon acceptance of contract. Active warrants? Prior convictions? No questions asked. Our background checks filter out criminal red flags. Plausible deniability is the sublight way. See Lilia Hagen for details. Warehouse next to the Sprotverse joint, 2nd floor. Here's the thing. My character is ethically flexible, so I think he'd totally be into it. So terrible. Do not delete. This is loitering on board property is strictly prohibited. The Halcyon Holdings corporate office and its environs are for conducting official board business only. Anyone found misusing board property will be fined accordingly. Board property includes, but is not limited to, Halcyon Holdings office here on Groundbreaker, the space directly in front of my desk, the space directly behind my desk, my doorway, my berth, and most importantly, my stairs. Thank you for your cooperation, Udom Bedford, Certified Liaison. P.S. Please note that the next spacer caught drinking in the stairs outside my embassy may find themselves on a rude side of an airlock. P.P.S. This is the 3rd time I've had to post this message, and I'm sick and tired of it. Will not hesitate to open a board-sanctioned investigation into your behavior, and when you are caught, punish you accordingly. Felix Millstone. Okay. Well then. Interesting. Sorry, Trooper, the kid through my wall is flinging large things down the stairs. Not a good condition for listening to stream. Oh, that's why I can't stream after dinner. Why do you have kids who are ridiculous? Also, here's the Groundbreaker. That's cool. Sublight. Let's so, I've got some questions about our life. Hey, we'll use this terminal. Ooh, hey, let's hack. Because I'm ethically flexible, right? I have no idea that, like, stuff like this happens. What? Oh, you know what? I had upstairs neighbors who called the police on me. So I was living in an apartment building, and I had upstairs neighbors who called the police on me. And do you want to know why? Because I had a friend over. It was like 10 or 11 o'clock at night. We were watching a movie and laughing. We were laughing. That was it. There was no party, no loud music. We were just laughing. They called the police, which, super dangerous, right? The police were like, okay, maybe laugh less. But here's the thing about my upstairs neighbors I want to point out. My upstairs neighbors had a small child who would scream all hours of the night. They also are really into that song, The Venga Bus. The Venga Boys are coming. Da 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 da. There's something San Francisco. The Venga, we like to party. We like to party. And they would play it super loud all the time at all hours. I feel like they would have bowling balls that they would drop on the floor. Like, they were always dropping heavy things, and it was like super loud. Their kid was always screaming. They'd play the Venga Boys all the time. Did I call the police on them? No. Why would I do that? That seems like a crappy thing to do. I didn't do that. I was like, well, their kid is screaming. It is life. And apparently they like the Venga Boys. All right. I didn't call the police on them. I just thought that was really messed up. Well, Falcom, I think that they were calling for a noise complaint. And so I don't think it's without cause if there's a noise complaint. That's all. Yeah. Yeah. Excuse me. Can you hear this, police? It was, yeah. Yeah. Unnecessary police interactions can be super dangerous. And I'm like, what's wrong with you? And they also didn't even talk to me. Like, they didn't bang on the floor to let me know that I was being too loud. They didn't knock on my door. They just called the police, which was like super. And we weren't even, I wasn't having a part. And by the way, they had parties all the time. They had parties all the time. And they would have parties with lots of children screaming. Or whatever. But like, I didn't see what the point is. Like, why would I do that to them? Whatever. Anyway, I was displeased with that. It was also, we like to party. Oh, and they would also play the Lambada song all the time. You know the Lambada song? Yeah. Anyway. But, whatever. So, from Tennyson to all the engineers, has anyone seen Private Taylor? I haven't seen him in days. And where are we on that toilet clog? If Chief Gulying taught me anything, it's that a crew's morale is proportional to the quality of their outhouse. You take away a crew's plumbing, you take away their privacy and dignity. So let's get that toilet fixed. One of the reasons I've stayed at this house is my neighbors are so quiet. It's amazing. And here's the thing. Look, honestly, I am not demanding complete silence if you live in an apartment block because it's an apartment block. Let's be realistic. But, so like I feel like part of living in an apartment is being a little bit understanding that people are going to sometimes make noise, etc., etc. But like, come on. 2 Wildcat Group Groundbreaker Meetup from Kitty Buchanan. Wildcat Group. Even though it's been nigh on 20 years since our last meetup on Groundbreaker, I was hoping we could get the old gang back together. I understand that things have changed. Some of us are long-range haulers, some of us have gone corporate, some of us are likely dead, and some of us are on Tartarus and not reading this message. But I haven't lost hope. No one responded to my last invite. I hope that means your schedules are full up with family gatherings and job opportunities. Stay free, freelancers. And then 2 from Iceman to IS Conveyors Collective. Subject, Conveyors Rights. Hi all. So I just got off ice from a round trip to Dashkova. 2 years out, 2 years back. Imagine my surprise when we de-thawed and Groundbreaker comms told us our docking was going to be delayed. 1 hour turned into 5. Then days went by. In the end, we spent an entire goddamn week waiting for a berth on this law-fucked bolt bucket. And because we were kicking our heels all that time, not one of us got paid. I don't know about you, but I got expenses. A family I don't see often enough, debt you wouldn't fucking believe, and even if I'm not working, I gotta still make payments. Does that seem proper to you? Don't we conveyors have rights? We should do something about this. If you agree, send a message, leave a message here, and I'll respond when I get back from Jin San in 3 years. Iceman out. Ooh. Oh, wait. I missed one. No, I didn't. I got that one. That's cool. This message is no longer accessible to your clearance level. Huh. Weird. Oh. Yeah, it's fine. This message does not exist. Stop looking or else. What? What? No, I want to keep looking. That's weird. What do you think happened there? Something weird happened. Don't you think? Something weird happened there, people. There's a mystery afoot. Regarding the food situation. Yeah, right? Something's going on. To those of you who have raised concerns about the quality of Groundbreaker's victuals, yes, I'm aware the promenade stinks. I'm going to put the matter to rest. Our ancestors didn't rise from humble beginnings on a diet of spratwurst and borscht, but that's the reality of life up here. You can salt it, can it, or zip it up in a pouch, but then we're not picky about calling it food. Spacers make do with what they have. And what we have is smelly meat, lots of salt, and 11 kinds of mustard, last time I counted. Try and enjoy it. Best part of my situation, no neighbors. Yeah, I don't know. I gotta find an apartment in New York. It's upstate. Ugh. By the way, side note, I just found out that if I get this second fellowship, which means I won't take a 40% pay cut when I go on this fellowship leave, I might lose my health insurance. I don't know. Anyway, I feel like it's kind of messed up. But like, I think I'm gonna get punished for doing all this work to win fellowships. I don't know. We're gonna find out. Upstate should be easier than the city. Yeah, Levi, but it's a college town and it's super expensive. Yeah, drummer boy. I'm just like, really? Wow. Anyway, I'm a little salty about it. I'm a little salty about it. But I won't know if I'll have health insurance or not until March when I find out if I get the second fellowship. Drummer boy. Hey, Canada. I hear really good things about Canada. And I'm going to go to McGill to give a talk sometime this semester. But, you know. We need to start a streamers colony somewhere. Yes. Public access terminal. This is a general notice about our impound policies. If the board impounded your ship, take it up with the board. Their embassy is the gaudy building opposite Sublight's warehouse. Send them your questions, outstanding fees, and hate mail, especially hate mail. If Groundbreaker impounded you, pay your damn fees and don't bother my people. Yeah. Looking for work. Urgently looking for a new crew to sign on with. I've been stuck on Halcyons for almost a year now. I don't know what's holding up my next posting. Never had to wait this long to get another freighter. I plan to take one of the rare long hauls back to Earth, but haven't been able to find any. And even the shorter skips to the inner world seem rarer than the outer world routes these days. If anyone has any information about upcoming work, please post it here. Down on my luck. Hey, so here's my story. My ship limped into Groundbreaker in a rough state. We couldn't make the repair fees, the docking fees, refueling, or the fees for not being able to pay our fees, so I'm kind of stuck here now. Then they took my ship and sold off as scrap. Now my credit is shot to hell and the corporate freighters won't hire me on. I'm hoping someone with a bunk to spare and places to go is feeling charitable. Thanks for listening. I would totally help this person out. Upstate is the countryside, but it's a college town. I'm going to be in Ithaca, which has like 3 or 4 colleges in the area, and it is hard. Yeah.
No one wants you on Groundbreaker.
These stairs are board property. Disperse now, or I'll detain you for trespassing.
Hey, there's engineering. We could talk to engineering, but we should probably just talk to Halcyon.
On our station?
Yeah, this is Chief Junling's ship. You don't own shit here.
Yeah, Ithaca's nice. It'll be, I think it'll be pretty. But I'm gonna have to find an apartment. Hey, let's find our boyfriend, or whoever this guy is.
Organized, efficient, competent. Well, mostly.
Oh, you got accepted to Cornell? I also got accepted to Cornell, but I went to UCLA instead. No, it's not the city. It is not a permanent move. I'm just going to be there for 1 year. I got a fellowship so that instead of teaching, I'm going to go to Cornell and I'm going to sort of be there for 1 year. I will teach 1 class, but I'm going to basically spend the time writing my books, because I've got to write a book. I've got to finish it. And I've got this leave, and it was a lot of work. I had to get letters and I had to write this whole stuff. It was all this work to get this leave. And now I think I might be screwed over. Anyway, I'm going to go on the leave because I need to write my book. And I'm excited to go and be with the people there because there's some cool folks. But I might lose my health insurance. And I find this, and the thing is, not only might I lose my health insurance, but I'm in Massachusetts, and I think you have to have health insurance in Massachusetts, and if you don't, I think you have to pay a fine. So not only might I lose my health insurance, but I might also have to pay a fine. It depends on if I get this second fellowship. If I get the second fellowship, then I might. If I don't, then I'll just take a big, huge pay cut, but then I might not lose my health insurance. It's just irritating. The whole thing is irritating. Hello, creepy corporate troopers. How are you?
Can't believe the board allows an unaffiliated station like this to stay open.
If you have to pay a fine in the U.S., No, this is a state thing, actually. This is a Massachusetts state thing, I believe. Because Massachusetts had this thing for a while. What qualifies? Yeah, I think there's going to be a Massachusetts state fine. Can I just look at this? Oh, all right. Well, let me talk to this guy.
Ah, yes.
Hi.
Wheeler messaged me you were coming. You must be the captain of the Unreliable.
Mm-hmm.
So that used to be helmed by one Alex Hawthorne. And you are not he.
That is true.
Has something happened to my favorite scruffy freelancer?
Yeah, so I don't know what's going to happen, and I'm not going to be able to find out until, like, March. You know? Oh, that's right, this guy, I found Udom, and this guy knows that I'm not, yeah. Oops. We live in Taxachusetts. We get taxed on everything. Yeah, well, I don't know what's going to happen with my life, everybody, but I'm going to spend... and I've got to fill out more paperwork, whatever. People are really irritating. But, I should fill out some of that paperwork tonight, even because I think it'll irritate them. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Alex is dead. Forget Alex. Why'd you impound my ship? I'm going to wring your scrawny neck, you sprat fuck. Give me back my ship. Oh. Alex is important. I'm here to... No. Alex is dead is what I'm going to say.
Oh no, this is terrible. My dear friend, what devilry is this? In whose miserable fever dream am I trapped?
I'm sorry for your loss.
Oh, Alex. There were so many arguments we'd yet to have.
See, I'm going to be friendly with him because he's got my ship. What was your relationship with him?
He was my dearest friend. My only friend. You have his ship, you must know. That picture of us on the promenade, me hugging him, him wincing. I keep a copy beside my bed. Did he?
I'm going to say, yep, he sure did.
Ah, that's just like him. Such a sentimental man.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me, how did he die?
Yeah, he was eaten alive by feral canids.
No.
Yeah.
How dreadful. That was always Alex's greatest fear, you know. Devoured by those fiends. Becoming one with their droppings.
Oh, again, I am very sorry. Can we get back to the topic at hand, though?
Right. You're going important places, I'm sure. Big, exciting, important places.
I like your mustache.
There. I've removed the flag from your ship.
Oh.
I'm terribly sorry for the inconvenience.
No worry.
However, before you go, Alex promised to tell me the location of Phineas Wells. I'm sure you've seen his wanted posters all over the colony. Did Alex tell you where Wells might be? Anything at all?
But why is the board so interested in Wells anyway?
You haven't read the posters.
No.
He's a terrorist, a thief, a madman. It's really in the colony's best interest that we stop him before he does further harm.
Oh. Yeah, well, you know, Alex never mentioned Phineas Wells. Sorry.
That's just terrible news. Law, what am I going to do now?
No idea.
The board will have my head.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is terribly unprofessional of me. Is there anything else I might help you with?
What's this about the board having your head?
It's personal business, I'm afraid. Miserably, terribly personal.
Is there anything I can do to help? Getting good.
Information on the whereabouts of Phineas Wells would go a long way. It's my white whale, I suppose.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't tell you where Wells is.
It's fine. Really, it's perfectly fine. I understand. Now, if you've nothing
Thank
else,
you, Ice Bunny.
see yourself out. I'd like to drown myself in work.
Yeah, okay, but I'm here about Jessie Doyle. I want her debt settled.
Miss Doyle owes the board a significant sum. Alas, the only collateral she has is her organs. Compulsory donation is quite legal in such cases.
Oh my gosh. I hate this system. Look, she's worth more alive than dead. Put her in her indenture contract.
That's not unreasonable.
I guess it's better than losing your organs, but I don't know, Captain. It just doesn't seem right.
I know, I don't like it either.
Miss Doyle is deeply in debt, and the board has every right to do whatever they like to recoup that debt.
This is a terrible system.
What guarantee do I have that she'll agree to the terms you negotiate?
Oh my gosh. She's hiding in sick bay to avoid assassins. I'm sure she'll prefer work. Way I see it, she doesn't have much choice. We're not going to give away her location, we'll just say that.
I quite concur. It's refreshing to deal with someone...
Indentured servitude, Javai.
I will recall my collection agent. Tell Miss Doyle to report to me promptly for her first assignment.
It didn't give me the option of paying off her debt.
Is there anything else you need, or can I return to my work?
I would have liked to try to pay off her debt, but they didn't even let me. I saw no option. I wanted to ask you something else.
Be my guest.
Like, I would have totally paid off her debt, but they did not give me the option. What? Somebody's watching me, and I have no privacy. Whoa, I always feel that somebody's watching me. Tell me, is it just a dream? Loaf YD, Loafy D, welcome in. Welcome in. What? But, yeah, I suppose I wanted to settle her debt because I would like to, but They did not give me that option. That seems unfair. Oh, but they didn't give me the option. But, I was looking for an option. I did not see it. That's no good. What do you do here exactly?
I'm the certified representative of the board's interests here on the Groundbreaker. I'm their eyes.
Maybe I
ears,
do.
and busy little hands.
Big fish in a small space station. Nice setup.
I have few complaints.
Maybe talk to her again. Maybe. Can you get me to Stellar Bay?
Good law. Who'd want to go to that toxic hell pit?
So no?
No. Emphatically no. Unequivocally no. Immutably no.
Why are there armed guards in here?
Oh. You've noticed my friends. Wonderful. Aren't their guns very large? Tremendously impressive.
Creepy.
They're here to keep the peace, of course.
To watch your back, you mean?
Precisely. Groundbreaker makes much ado about its independent status and so resents any board presence, no matter how benign.
I don't think that... Well, you call keeping officers on their promenade benign?
When the alternative is board guards at their gates, yes,
All right.
I do. They don't see it that way, of course, but I can't say I much care.
Okay. What are those locked doors in the back?
A luxury stateroom, reserved for Chairman Rockwell's use.
Oh. Does the chairman visit here often?
Oh, good law, of course not. He'd never set foot on this decrepit junk pile. As this office is the primary embassy for the board on Groundbreaker, corporate bylaws specifically state a room must be maintained for the chairman's exclusive use.
Does it seem hot in here to you?
Law, but it's miserable. My underarms are damp. How can I be expected to work in these conditions? Chief Tennyson is supposedly looking into the cause, but I've seen no action from her. Deplorable conduct. My superiors will be hearing about it. You can be certain of that.
Back to my other questions.
Ask away.
I'm going. Like, I really do not want to sell her into slavery. Like, I really, really don't.
Where are we headed?
We'll talk later. That is not a thing that I want to do at all. Because that's no fun. So...
Have you seen this man? Reward offered for information leading to the capture of noted terrorist Phineas Wells. Report any sightings to your local board embassy.
I don't care. Hi. Auntie Cleo? How are you?
Hearty greeting, potential customer. Welcome to Auntie's Kitchen, a home-style consumable protein dispensary. This unit dispense proteins for your ingestion.
Aren't you just a glorified vending machine?
This unit is programmed to simulate shock at such assertions.
Fair.
Shock simulation non-functional. A trouble ticket has been filed.
Oh, you know, I can maybe fix it.
Shock simulation restored. Initiating shock subroutine. How dare you? Shock subroutine complete. Estimated guilt level of customer increased by 35%. Resuming protein dispensation protocol. This unit dispense proteins for your ingestion.
No, it's okay. Thank you. That was very nice. Look, I've got a lot of feelings about all of this. You know, like I don't want... See, this is why I didn't say where she was. I didn't say where she was because I don't want to sell her into slavery. What do you think this place is? I think that's probably engineering, right? Let's go there first. Let's just do it. I mean, we're gonna end soon. Wait, transition to back bays. No, this is engineering. We won't go there yet. We've got, like, let's do the round and then we'll quit. Oh, it is hot in here. Ooh.
This is those XF411s? And an old Yakita 37? You think they'd let me peek at the power plant?
Some townships have asked Halcyon News to make a statement regarding rumors of food shortages. Rest assured, the far-sighted corporate leaders of Halcyon have tailored their product lines to be selective to the refined customer.
This is bad.
Scheduled scarcity is a premium feature of colonial life.
Scheduled scarcity is a premium feature of colonial life. This is a bad space.
Good law, the heat in here is so
had space.
Unbearable, I can hardly even concentrate. Junlei better hurry up with those damn repairs already.
Okay. Let's see if we can find her and see if we can help her out.
Thought there'd be more machinery. Must be housed on a sublevel.
Probably.
Spend all day in here and not have looked at half the best stuff.
I would.
Pretty worn though.
Hello. Can we talk? Let's chat.
Junlei Tennyson.
Hi.
I'm captain around here, but chief to my friends. Hope you don't mind the formal introduction. Groundbreaker doesn't see many visitors.
Well, it's fine. Jezza Carmichael. Nice place you got here, Chief.
No, it isn't. It's a mess. But it's my mess, so I'll take the compliment.
Oh.
Just so we understand each other, I'm the final word on the ship. The Mardits, the crew, the engineers, their family. I hope there won't be any problems while you're visiting.
I'm just gonna salute and say copy that, Chief.
At ease. Nice to see an outsider with some working brain cells. So what brings you to Groundbreaker? I'm curious, even though 9 times out of 10 the answer's just passing through.
Now that my ship's out of impound, I can safely say I'm headed for Monarch.
Interesting. The powers that be paint an ugly picture of Monarch. Critters and such. Maybe someone in the promenade can get you the right weapon for the job. We see a lot of the same faces coming and going. Most of them board spies and corporate sprats. Makes it hard to trust outsiders. You seem different, so welcome aboard.
Yes, I'm ethically flexible. I heard, let's start with this. I've heard you're having heat problems. What's going on?
Groundbreaker's radiators need replacement parts. They're dumping superheated air into my ship.
Why haven't you fixed them yet?
Only the board has access to new parts.
Oh.
And I won't let them swindle me into a corner.
Oh. Surely the board doesn't want the Groundbreaker to roast.
They want us to sweat, thinking that'll soften me up for a bad faith deal. If you'll excuse me, they can go fuck themselves.
That's fair.
The board isn't helping and my resources are spread thin. If I don't get those radiators back online, Groundbreaker, everyone on board, will be cooked alive.
Whoa. Hey, you need a contractor to work this out. I'm available for a reasonable rate.
Reasonable, huh? That's the best news I've heard.
I don't want that woman going into indentured servitude.
According to my grandmother's old schematics, the parts we need should be in the back bays.
Oh. The back bays? Am I supposed to know where that is?
Sorry, I forgot not everyone knows this ship like I do. The back bays are on a lower deck, long abandoned and a haven for miscreants now.
Okay. Can we try to talk this out with whoever's down there?
Those idiots are immune to reason, and they don't much care if the station melts to pieces. They're content to die last.
I see.
If you could find some way to solve this without violence, I'd prefer that. But more than anything, we need those parts.
You know what? Have you tried sending anyone else down there to get the parts?
I have. One of my engineers, plus a small security detail. They didn't come back.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I can't afford to lose any Mardits on this job.
Somebody's watching me, and I have no privacy. Whoa, I always feel that somebody's watching me. Tell me, is it just a dream? Maintenance droid, thank you for the follow. Welcome into the foxhole. We're hanging out, playing the Outer Worlds. We're probably going to end somewhat soonish, so I can get some food. But we're trying to figure it out. So I will just say none taken.
Nice and pragmatic. Thanks for understanding.
You know what? I'll get you those parts from the back bays.
Good. Once you've obtained the parts, we can proceed to the next phase of repairs.
But we should talk some more still. Because...
This whole deck smells like ass. Only gonna get worse if I don't get those radiators fixed.
So what's it like being in command around here?
Frustrating. Everything down to the circuit boards is past warranty, so I have the pleasure of making life or death decisions on a shoestring budget.
Oh.
Plus, there's no time to train my successor or document fixes in a way that anyone outside the family would understand.
The ship is a family business? No. Aren't you a little young to be training successor?
You see any bite-sized Tennyson children running around? I didn't think so. The next captain won't have my heritage. I'll have to foster that talent from somewhere. It's only a question of when.
Oh. This ship is a family business.
Sure is. The Tennysons came over on the Groundbreaker. My grandmother, Chief Gang, kept it together during the crossing and until she died. I was promoted only recently, when my mom died.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Then I took the leap from Chief Engineer to Captain.
They must have been amazing people to have taught you all you know, I mean, which is a lot.
That means a lot coming from a fellow engineer.
You know, condolences, Junlei. I'm sure those were some big shoes to fill.
Appreciate it. There wasn't much that took me by surprise about the job, but the little things
You know what? I know what I should say.
They add up over time. Maybe you can see why I'm protective of Groundbreaker. This ship is family. It's got tinkerings and bypasses that only Tennysons know about.
You know, I don't want to say this, but Parvati here could always help you shoulder the burden.
Oh, gosh. I don't know. I'm really just a dab hand with a wrench. Nothing special. Not like a chief engineer.
Don't sell yourself short. It doesn't take a seasoned pro to tinker on Groundbreaker. Just someone who knows how it
I don't want to lose Parvati.
We're always thirsting for help. If you could find your way around this labyrinth of ducts and panels, we could work something out.
I don't want to lose her, but I want her to have her bliss. You don't have a lot of faith in the board.
You're right, I don't. The board is after two things, bits and power, and they only get it by sticking their nose where it doesn't belong.
Yeah, how do you keep the board at a safe distance?
I placate them when I have something to offer, but I can also be a real hard-ass. It'd be a joy if I could kick out the corporate merchants and reclaim the docking fees in my lifetime. Too much of Groundbreaker's income is flowing in the wrong direction. I'd like to see that change.
You must not like Udon Bedford that much.
I like to think of myself as a nice person, but if that gaudy embassy of his was on fire, I might hold my breath a moment before activating the sprinkler system. The board wants control over Groundbreaker, and leeches like Udon Bedford will do anything to please their corporate masters.
Back to my other questions.
You've got my attention.
Parvati, you wanted to talk to Junlei? Go ahead.
What? I didn't think you just...
Parvati, is it? That's a lovely name. What can I do for you?
I was just thinking, I haven't got much experience working with actual, real spaceships, Miss Junlei. Chief Junlei.
Junlei is fine.
I'm gonna nudge Parvati to continue.
Okay. Since you run a whole space station, I was wondering if, well, maybe you could teach me some things. I could message you later, maybe?
I'd be happy to make the time, Parvati. You can ask me anything.
I'm gonna silently encourage Parvati.
Wow, great. I'll do that then. Messages. Later. Oh, your name's pretty too. I should have said... Sorry. I like it. Honest. Sorry.
I'm just gonna whisper, nice job.
Couldn't have done it without your moral support.
Oh, I'm here.
Now, if there's nothing else, there are other parts of the ship begging for my attention.
Of course. Hey! Leveled up! Also, it's super hot in here. It's getting hot in here! So, you know, it's an engineer, some workbenches, all that looks pretty fine. People sweating. Oh, hello. Person with a name.
You should clear out. Engineering's a dangerous place to wander until we get those radiators fixed.
Fair. I'm not gonna steal anything from the engineers. I know, I'm like, hey Parvati, you go. I'm not gonna steal anything in here because, you know, I feel like I'd get caught. But also, let's just get out of there for a moment. I think we can probably hit this round before we leave, before we go. Freighter crew? What is this? Ike's Armory. Hello.
You look like someone who's taken their share of cuts and bruises.
Yeah?
Need some armor. Maybe it's a bit secondhand, but that's only testament to its durability.
Oh.
We also have a line of specialized melee weapons. For those times you have to repel boarders but don't want to risk a bullet through the hull.
Are you a spacer yourself? Got great hair.
Not me, but it's in my blood. After the crossing, my family worked Eridanos, indentured to the corporations.
Go on.
I was born into corporate labor, but I'm the first one of my family to buy my way out. That's why I settled on Groundbreaker. It's the last bastion of freedom.
I really am not excited about this.
Everything I said
Not
was
him,
fresh
I'm
from the
fine.
forge.
But that friend.
Technically, the metal formed billions of years ago, but it's freshly in the shape.
Well, let me see what we have for trade. I don't think I'm going to buy anything, though. It's like a bunch of stuff. Maybe some of it's like better than what I have. But I can't compare. Oh, it's the Spratwurst. Hello.
If you're hungry, you've come to the right place. I've got a fresh ground batch of Spratwurst cooking. They're terra-fried to lock in the juices. How about a grinder's dozen?
Yeah, what's a Spratwurst exactly?
You know what sprats are?
Yeah.
Space rats. The
Right.
laboratories of Spacer's Choice found a use for this limitless frontier resource. Sprat meat is plenty tasty when properly prepared. We grind them up in sausages, then terra-fry them in their own juices.
What does terra fry mean?
Terra-frying is a Spacer's Choice brand secret. A mix of 13 herbs and spices, plus a dash of modern chemistry.
Is Spratwurst like your own invention or what?
Legally? No. The terra-frying method was developed and marketed by Spacer's Choice. Between you, me, and this grinder, I've been through lean times. If there's one thing you learn on tramp freighters, it's how to make near anything edible. Might be that this old space hand put a few words in the right ears, and could be that Spacer's Choice liked sticking it to C&P by R&Ding our own special meat.
So Spratwurst is like Borstwurst? I've seen that a lot.
Absolutely not.
Oh.
Spratwurst and all related terms are registered trademarks of Spacer's Choice.
I see.
Boar, the other meat, is a registered trademark of C&P.
I see.
Everyone knows our company and theirs are nothing alike.
Of course. Well, thank you. That's enough talk for now.
Just as well. Near about time for me to go check on the trap. I mean, to unload another crate of farm fresh sprats.
I'm not going to have one, but do you have time to talk, chat?
As long as you don't mind me grinding Spratwurst while
No.
we talk.
Yep.
Little things don't make themselves chewy. At least not yet.
This is a bad
I'm sure
universe.
Science will find a way.
Yeah, we're going to go.
Just as well. Near about
Yeah,
time.
no, we're also, I just feel like this is a bad, like, you know how like some places are bad? Oh, this is your home. I'm not going to steal your stuff. Wait. A lot of space rats. Yeah. You know what? I'm going to just step outside and, look, so everybody says we should not go to Sublight because they're sketch, but my character is sketch. So, yeah, they're just putting whole sprats in the grinder.
Sublight salvage. Their front looks surprisingly on the up and up.
You reckon we can shop here, or is it all spoke for?
I don't know. Let's find out. Look, I know people are not going to be really happy. Look, I'm very distressed about this woman who's going to, like, I do not want her to go into indentured servitude. I don't want her murdered either. Hello.
Welcome to Sublight Salvage and Shipping, a legitimate business for legitimate consumers. You the one flying the unreliable?
That's right. Name's Captain Hawthorne.
Sure you are.
What?
Miss Lily has been expecting you.
What?
I'll unlock the door.
Thanks. So you're a Sublight employee?
Sure am. A few years back, they got me started on simple acquisitions. You know those latches they put on cargo bays ain't worth a damn? These days, I stick to HQ and look after Miss Lilia.
I should go. So we're going to talk to this woman, find out why is she expecting me and what's up. Okay. Hello? Let's spend our skill points, shall we, before we get any further in this situation. I feel a little uncomfortable. No, like this is nothing at all sketchy, and we're gonna just look, there's a lot we should be doing, like being better at guns, but we're gonna go with our tech, because we have not teched in a bit, and I think that that's important. And we will accept it. Okay. Because we haven't teched in a bit.
So you're the new captain in town.
I was hoping you'd make your way to my office. Saves me the work of hunting you down.
Nice.
Lilia Hagen, CEO and Executive Director of Aggressive Operations.
Hmm.
I'm guessing you already know about Sublight, otherwise you wouldn't have come.
Yeah, Groundbreaker Security told me that Sublight... No, I'm going to say never heard of you. That's funny.
Not a word. Pity. My guy in marketing is about to lose his other thumb.
Ouch, sorry. Oops.
It's nice to see the Unreliable again. Useful ship. Hawthorne was my contractor. I'd recognize that leaky boat of his anywhere.
Don't let Ada hear you calling her ship names. Huh?
Is Ada still at the helm? I don't know how many times I told Hawthorne to restore that smartass to factory settings. I have a salvage job for someone light on corporate ties with a reliable set of wings. But there's a catch.
There's always a catch. What's the catch?
Just like in the serials. If you have a nav key to Stellar Bay, the job's yours. Interested?
I don't have a nav key, but can I still take the job?
I like that initiative, but ease back on the throttle. Gladys at the Rest and Go might have what you need. If there's anything else, be quick about it. Time is bits.
I take it Sublight isn't strictly a salvage operation?
These days, the scrap business all but runs itself. Gives me the time to expand our interests into other sectors, where I can let my hair down.
Yeah, what kind of other sectors does Sublight pursue other than salvage and shipping?
Our field is persuasive acquisitions. At least that's how my legal advisors tell me to phrase it.
Interesting.
Not all of our salvage is abandoned when we find it.
Interesting.
Sometimes it takes a polite conversation and a shot across the bow. You know, legal formalities.
So, you're a company of bureaucratic pirates.
Your words, not mine.
Interesting. You're very honest about Sublight's criminal side.
Hey, careful with the C word around here. I like to keep things above board, and that kind of talk only makes trouble.
Sorry.
Sublight occupies a legal blind spot. No one knows what we're licensed to do, and that gives our little business some freedom. But let's not tempt fate.
So how organized is this business?
Very. I have this thing about numbers in spreadsheets. Grids in general.
That's not what I meant,
I
but
like to think of myself as
it's
the
fine.
last honest businesswoman in Halcyon.
Interesting.
But I'll settle for being the most organized one.
Okay, well, back to my other questions.
Ask.
You know,
I have nothing to hide.
I'm leaving.
Be seeing you.
Okay.
Make sure you aren't followed on your way out.
Okay. That's just a little sketchy. What's over here? Oh, that's nice. It's a nice little balcony that she's got. I'm gonna leave. And then we're gonna go downstairs. And then we're gonna just assess where we are. And yeah, she's running the space mob. Also, I really don't want this woman to be put in indentured servitude. Maybe if I talk to her, I can figure something out. But at least she won't be murdered. And at least he doesn't know where she is. I didn't give that away. So, I mean, there's something. We're gonna talk to her.
Wish I could say it was good to see you, Ellie.
Oh,
At least you
she's
finally
out.
got your chance to square our debt. That ought to make you smile for once, huh?
Nothing makes me happier than being even. Except being right. That's nice too.
Oh, they're chatting. Hi, can we chat? Cause
The good news came through the wireless. Looks like you paid my debt to Jesse. I guess that means I owe you now, right? Tell you what, I'm a little short on bits at the moment, but I'm a decent scrapper and a better than average sawbones.
Oh.
If you're looking for a medic, I can work my debt off.
Wait, are you saying you'll work for me just because I helped Jesse?
If I'm being honest, and I prefer not to, I was about ready to pick up another contract anyway, and you settled this in a pretty tidy fashion, which tells me you're competent.
Oh.
But we can say I'm repaying the favor if you prefer that version.
What exactly did Jesse do for you anyway?
She helped me win a bet.
What was the bet?
We were on a smuggling run planetside when our point man bet me I couldn't outrun a mantisaur.
Don't tell me you tried.
What can I say? Something about people telling me I can't do a thing that just makes me itch to prove them wrong.
Interesting.
And as you can probably guess, the thing was faster than it looked. Probably would have caught me if Jesse hadn't picked it off.
So she saved your life.
Yeah, but the important thing is I won the bet.
Welcome aboard, Ellie.
You won't be sorry. Though it looks like you've got a full roster already. Time to play favorites, Captain.
Maybe on my ship it's docked by the promenade. Oh, wait. Maybe I should not have a corporate person with me. Yeah, Vicar Max. I'll catch up with you on the ship later, right? Yeah, right? Yeah.
Dr. Fenhill, glad you opted to join us. It'll be good to have a Sawbones on the crew.
We're gonna have her on our crew for the moment. Yeah, and also Jesse, can we talk? I feel like Jesse, we need to talk. Jesse? No, I don't want to shoot you. I just want to chat with you. Jesse, where are you going? I just want to chat with you.
Got word from Udom, from the hitman who trailed me the other night. Seems I'm indentured to the board now.
I'm really sorry.
I ain't too elated about going exclusive, but it's better than winding up dead. You sure saved my skin, stranger. All debts between me and Ellie are cleared.
Hey, watch yourself while I'm gone, okay? I wish you were not indentured servitude. I wish I could help out in some other way. That makes me sad. Well, I feel like we have done so much. What is our journal? What does Ellie do? So she's got a pistol and a cool knife. That's cool. And she's wearing some body armor, which also looks fine. Oh, we can give her a perk. More health, more threat, less threat, or more medical. Let's give her more medical, because that seems always useful. And then, no, let's accept those changes. Back. Apply. Although I should give her more health, because it's always important. Nah, it's fine. We're giving her that. That's it. And then, so she's a medium person, aggressive. She can lie, and she's got medical and engineering. All right. And that sounds great. I like it. People, what am I doing? So I need to get the Stellar Nav Key, which is a lot of money, which I don't have. So if I can do this distress signal on Terra 2, that could be something. I can get the parts for the radiators. I could do that. I can... Oh, I've got weapons I have to pick up. There's a distress signal, which I should do. There's some... Oh, I've got to go to the back bays. That's fine. And I've got to find some captain. Scylla. I don't know where that is. Also, I should talk to Parvati about Junlei. I should track down Reginald Chansey on Monarch. And I did speak to her. But I need this... Yeah. Is the Empty Man the quest for the mechanical on your ship? I don't think I have a mechanical. What is this? This is... No, this is for Vicar Max. It's the Vicar's quest. So, gang, I feel like this is our stopping point. It's like 3:30. We got actually some game in. We should probably... Hey, what do you think that is? What do you think it is? Oh, that's the way to the Back Bay Terminal. Right. Yes. Yes. So let's... Here's what we're going to do. I don't know who I like having better. I don't know Ellie yet, but she said she'd hang out with us, so... That's cool. We're going to stand right here. This is where we're going to stand. I missed the key card in the Moon Man shop, probably. Hello, Don Marotti. Let's see. Do I? Hey, Moon Man. Before we stand over there, let's chat with the Moon Man and see if we did. I don't know. Did I? There's a quest to fix the mechanical on your ship. Hi, Moon Man. How are you doing?
What can I do
Oh,
for you?
my pleasure.
Need some Adreno? It's good for you. Spacer's promise.
Yeah.
Don't take my word for it. See for yourself.
Hey, fair warning, you're still logged in one of the public terminals.
Shit. Oh, shit. No, I mean,
It's fine.
yeah, excellent. Yeah, that was intentional.
It's fine.
As the face of Spacer's Choice, it's my honor to be...
Oh, in the back room.
Figure. Who needs privacy when you have job security?
All right, well, I'm gonna go. Hey, everybody. Do you mean, Don Marotti, do you mean that I should steal things from people? Because... if I pick the lock, well, am I going to get in trouble? No. If you don't mind, I'm going to just close these doors for a second. Hey, what's in here? Permanently? Yeah, I'm just going to permanently borrow. Could you maybe shut these doors? I'm going to just permanently borrow some stuff. Like some light ammo, some energy cells. What do we have here? We have some chaw. Somebody's watching me, and I have no privacy. Whoa, I always feel that somebody's watching me. Tell me, is it just a dream? Thank you for the follow, Don Marotti. Thank you. We're going to be playing this next Saturday at noon, and also steal rest and go key card. Oh, the door is open. Well, luckily nobody's hanging out. Nobody's hanging out. That means I could steal things. I'm not... Look, I don't like Spacer's Choice. I think they're bad. I think Spacer's Choice are full of bad people.
What do you think you're doing?
Nothing. I was just leaving.
Sorry for the misunderstanding.
It's cool. Also, don't look at me. I'm just, like, stealing some things. If that happened a little earlier, Kevin, so I would always be like, oh. So, you know, I just want to, like, steal some things while no one's looking. Is that bad? No, it's not bad. Because I'm sticking it to the man. Did I just lose some Groundbreaker rep? Did I? Why? They don't like corporations. See, like, there's nobody here looking at me right now. I can just, like... Also, it's fine because they're gonna like me anyway. I'm gonna do lots of things to help them out. I'm afraid that people are gonna look at me stealing, though, and catch me. Do I lose rep with them? And is it really stealing? I'm a little paranoid that people are gonna catch me stealing. Just. As long as nobody's looking, right? Then I think I should be fine. Just stim lotion, creepy. And I mean, look, I'm just. Oh, look, it's pretend stealing. Like, and there we go. That's it. And I won't take these because it's right in public. That's it. See, we're done. Look at that. See how great that was? We've got other things we can do, but I feel like we should probably get ourselves set up to go to the back base. We'll just do that. We'll sort of hit everything in the space, and that seems good. Yeah, we're gonna just stand right here and be ready. Be ready. So, everyone, save our game. I want to say thank you everybody for being here. It has been wonderful. Let's override our save. I'm Tripper SJP. This is the Academic Foxhole. I want to thank everyone for being here. If you want to, you can follow, because you know you don't have to, but if you can, you can if you want to. Also, You can subscribe if you like as well, but we have a Discord if you want to hang out in Discord with us. We're pretty friendly. We're not too, we hang out. I think it's a pretty nice Discord. You can find me at YouTube, Trooper SJP, where there is an archive of all these shows. Also, you can find me on Twitter at Academic Foxhole. Also have a Patreon on Academic Foxhole, which I'm using to go and help support the RPGs that I'm running on this stream, so to pay for overlays and music and to pay the cast. And where to find me next? Sunday, which is tomorrow. Oh my goodness. At this channel at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, I will be playing running part 2 of Cthulhu Confidential, a Cthulhu Noir RPG with one player, one GM. I'm the GM, and the player is Algernon Bolden, who works for Harebrained Schemes, has worked on Battletech and Shadowrun. Super cool guy. And that's Sunday. You should come and see it. The part 1 is on YouTube if you want to watch. And next week, regular streams. Wednesday at Tales from the Grim, I'll be playing in The Witcher as a bard. Thursday, here at 6 p.m., we'll be playing a Return of the Obra Dinn, and then back here next Saturday for more Outer Worlds. Yes! Drop the die, you're so great! I'm just saying, drop the die. Just giving you some love, drop the die. So, thanks everybody. Yeah, come on, you have to remember to do the intro and outro, or else people will not remember who you are, you know? Do the intro, outro. So that's me. I'm so happy to see you all. Thank you all for being here. You all are excellent. And I will catch you on the flip side. All of the love, my friends. I'm gonna go eat. You should all eat too. Eat something. Take care, everybody. Bye.